Good morning, Astrolabians. The Astrolabe is live, so it's time for your day to begin. We are here. How's it going, everybody? Got all the regulars in the chat. I see you guys in there. It's popping already. Real Hoopties of Genesee County. That's one of the best names I've ever seen. It's so good. Yeah, intro music is great. Shout out to Cooper for putting that together. Cooper did the audio. I did the visuals. And the show, 1 star. Intro, 5 stars. Show, 1 star. Many such cases. Oh, man. Well, it's funny. Yesterday, I was sitting here putting together the show, trying to come up with some stuff to talk about. And some of the things, I did the whole thing on the... I against my better judgment, I weighed in on the Wife Jack discourse. And I knew that was coming. And I was like, But I just can't get this stuff out of my head. I got to say something. I feel like there's someone who needs to hear this. So I just kind of limped together a show. And then today I'm putting the show together and I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is just going to be a 6-hour show. There is so much stuff that has happened. I'm not really going to be weighing in on the South Korea coup thing because I'm going to give it the old 48-hour rule. I have no idea what's going on there. I'm not even going to pretend to be an expert on Korean politics. Based on my understanding of general geopolitical trends, I can probably extrapolate a few things, but we're also in the middle of a vibe shift, so lots of unexpected things are happening, and I'm just going to give it a little bit to see exactly what happens before I really weigh in on it. But got a whole bunch of other stuff. Some of the stuff's going to be good, some of it's going to be annoying, some of it's going to be we got some vibe shift stuff. Trump dunking on the Leafs. It's always good. We gotta. That was like I couldn't not have that be the lead story. It's not going to be the first one we get into though. I've got a bunch of different things lined up. Going to talk about some stuff going on in New York City. There's a bunch of different stories all happening in New York City right now, and it seems like New York City may wind up being the epicenter of the vibe shift, which would be very appropriate given that our Lord and Savior Donald Trump is a New York City native. But even though he's relocated his empire to Florida, I think he would be absolutely happy to relocate back to New York and take it back over again. So we're going to talk about that. We got some stuff on the North Carolina situation. Want to make sure we keep that in your guys' attention. And then a bunch of stuff about Bitcoin. There's a rumor that Trump has chosen his SEC chair. From the look of it, the guy just needs to accept the offer. He's a libertarian. He's a pro-crypto guy. So that's going to have some implications if he does wind up accepting. So we're going to talk about that here a little bit. And UFOs. I don't know if this is just me, just my algorithm. I stumbled my way down into a hole, and these posts have been dropping anyways, and I just happened to become aware of it, or if there genuinely is a serious uptick. So I'm holding all this stuff lightly, but I'm seeing UFO posting just absolutely nonstop. And some of it is pretty obvious engagement bait. Some of it is there's definitely something to this. There's some kind of disclosure that's happening. No clue exactly what all it means yet, but we'll talk about that a little bit. So let's see. Housekeeping. Hit the like button. We got 60 watching already, 18 likes. So do me a favor, hit the like button. I got a copyright strike on the channel, got a video taken down. And it was not at all, of all the clips that I've played, it was one that I wasn't even remotely concerned about having copyright stricken. It was an AI video that I played a couple weeks ago of like a buddy comedy between Trump and Biden. And that one got the very first strike on the channel ever. So I have to go to copyright school to get the strike removed in 90 days. And I don't think it's affected the monetization. It's probably affected the reach. So any engagement you guys can give is helpful as I navigate through this trying time. Then you can also follow me on Twitter. I'm streaming on X there. Follow me on Twitter where I'm streaming on X. Yeah, at Real King Pilled. All right. And then we got some sponsors of the show today, but I'll hold off on that until a little bit later. We'll get right into the content here. Yes, tomorrow is my birthday. My wife is alerting everyone in the chat. Tomorrow is my birthday. So the big 3-6. The Nikola Tesla birthday, I suppose. Okay, come on. Got a healthy serving of slop here today. Got to do a shout out to my Sportsball bros. Got to throw you a bone. Jameis Winston is just absolutely a character. He was very highly touted coming out of college. Really flopped as a rookie, as his early career. Just massive turnovers, and but now he's sort of remaking himself a little bit as a journeyman, coming in and filling in. So Deshaun Watson. This is such a fascinating story. So many different elements to it. But Deshaun Watson gets longhoused. It seems like there was something to it. He liked himself some pervy massages, and he got himself in trouble because of that. The Browns went and gave him the largest contract in NFL history, and it was terrible. He got injured. He's been absolutely terrible. It's like a franchise ending move, basically. Then he tears his Achilles, and that gives Jameis an opportunity to step in and do what Jameis does. So yesterday, Monday Night Football, he threw for almost 500 yards, like 497 yards and 4 touchdowns. But he actually threw 6 touchdowns because he had 3 interceptions and 2 of them were pick sixes. So he threw 6 touchdowns, but 2 of them were to the other team. The dude is a walking quote machine. We saw this kind of early on when he was younger. He said and did some funny stuff when he was in college. There was this really well-known clip when he was I can't remember now if it was in college or the NFL. I think it was in the NFL. But he did this thing like we're going to be eating W's. We're going to go out on the field and just start eating W's. And he starts like eating the W as he's saying it. And all of his teammates are kind of like, "What's happening here, bro?" But as he gets older, he's just really settling into his groove. So last night they were interviewing him after he came in and threw a couple of pick sixes, threw for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns, but they ultimately fell short of the Broncos. And he gave an all-timer of a post-game interview.
I am a better player, but in times like this, it's an opportunity to continue to glorify the Lord even through the toughest circumstances. I know I'm better than this. I know I'm just praying for the Lord to deliver me from pick sixes. Like that's not me. Like a phenomenal game, offense, do some great things, but I messed it up.
I'm just praying for the Lord to deliver me from pick sixes. And you could tell like he's talking to himself. He's talking to himself. The words are just flowing. He's just a vessel for the words. And then just an all-timer of a phrase like that just comes falling out. Here's another recent one. Getting ready. This is a pregame interview just before Thursday Night Football. I think they're playing the Steelers. And the sideline chick decides she's got to get a quick interview with him. And he was not in interview mode. Or maybe he was. I suppose it depends on your perspective.
You have said you don't become a Brown until you beat the Steelers. What will it take tonight?
The horse is prepared for battle, but victory comes from the Lord. So I'm dependent on the Lord.
Is that the message to the team?
Day by day, one play at a time. That's the message.
Weather conditions tonight. We're expecting winds up to 15 miles per hour in a wintry mix. How will that impact your ability to throw the ball?
I am so happy and grateful that the Lord has blessed me to play in some snow, to be in true football weather in Cleveland, Ohio at Huntington Bank Field today to give him the glory. It's a beautiful day.
Sure feels like you're playing in the AFC North.
It is. It's magical. Thank you.
You have said you don't become.
Philo Fournier says, hated that dude since his Florida State days, all-time retard. Yeah, I've never really had much of an opinion of him, from my football scouting days. He's your classic, what's the term here? Like a spray and pray quarterback. He's just gonna fucking chuck it. And sometimes that's gonna work out and sometimes it's not. And then sometimes it's gonna do both in the same game and you get 500 yards and 4 touchdowns and 2 pick sixes. But now, this version of Jameis, I can't get enough of it. I cannot wait for his media career after this. He's phenomenally charismatic, just an absolute quote machine, and he doesn't have any time for like the formalities of this kind of interview. Typically, the interview is like going to just be boilerplate, like the player's like, all right, whatever, ask me your stupid questions, I'm going to give you some throwaway answer, and then I'm going to get back to what I was doing. And he's like, I don't have time for all this. I am in my element. I'm going to take this time for myself, and I love every bit of it. Rare footage of one of the first ever MGMT gigs in 2003. This is just 2 dudes in 2003 not realizing they just made one of the best songs ever. This is some White Boy Summer content right here. It may be December, but White Boy Summer is still flying. It's like just people having fun, not a smartphone in sight. Look at these white people. Ah, such a banger. The song's called Kids. Kids by MGMT. I sent that one to Cooper as soon as I saw it yesterday, and he never replied. It's total Cooper content, but, you know, what's a guy got to do to get a reply? I wonder if Cooper's listening. Probably not. I love this guy. I followed this guy on not him specifically, but I've seen his clips all over the place. This is some absolutely pure distilled dad energy.
Let's go! How you doing?
Salmon rub. Sounds a little naughty.
Your vegetable shake. I'd rather eat my own spoon. I don't believe in frozen bread. I want fresh bread or I'm out. These aren't bad if I was a size boat. Wow, that's the cod. Candle of the day. Is it a good deal? I have no idea what a good honey deal is. It's local. It's right here. It's fairly local. I mean, I'm looking at it. Do we need these? Are they on the list? Our shit peppers? Ha! I'm gonna stop the book. The only good bean is a jelly bean. Everyone you know is coming over?
They're tender. I just cut them off like that and put a little tiny breadcrumb in.
Are you writing this down?
I got value nachos, whatever that means. I think they're from like Monday's game. It looks like a tongue.
I know nothing about pickleball other than I would dominate. I can win the national championship right now.
There's the bear shit there. Avoid the shit. ATS.
I don't know the rules. I just dominate. I could be the national champion right now. I love this guy.
Avoid the shit.
Where are we going? Where are we going?
All right, let's go.
The bread hand obviously means you do whatever you want. I smell this.
It's on sale.
It should be.
Oh, you look great.
Rate's a little strong.
That guy is such a lemon bag. We gotta get that going. Restaurant style. What, you got a tip after you eat those? Look, I'm a fall risk. Spring, summer, winter, I'm good, but fall on the risk. Nola for $10. No, thanks. I'll make my own.
Will you?
No. Just gotta make price, all right? Look it up.
Oh man, he's like if a dad joke became a person. He's at Kickball Dad. If you wanna follow him, I highly recommend it. It's very, very wholesome slop. Okay, got one more wholesome clip. So there's this challenge that these guys have been doing. All these memes have been produced from it. Bryson DeChambeau did a hole-in-one challenge where he posted a video of himself hitting chips from his front yard to his backyard and trying to get him in to see how many shots he could do it in. And so it's become a challenge. People are doing the hole-in-one challenge. And so day 1, they take 1 shot. Day 2, they take 2 shots. Day 3, they take 3 shots. This kid is on day 6 of it. And he and his dad are out working together to get him through this challenge, and it's very, very wholesome.
It's day 6 of me trying to hit a hole-in-one over my house. Since it's day 6, I got 6 shots. Bad day to be a turkey and bad day to be a pin.
Oh, yeah. Oh, a little long. Left, long. Oh, I love this. I love this. Go, go, go. Oh!
Wait for it.
Oh, here we go. Oh, man. Another good one. Oh, carried it to the hole, but just...
Hi, happy Thanksgiving. Gob, 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 go.
Oh, I like this. I like this. Oh, do it. Do it. Oh, he made it. It's a Thanksgiving Day miracle. Oh, look at him out of the hole. He made it. Oh. Oh.
We love family. We love good, wholesome family content around here, don't we, folks? All right, this one's from Archaeo Histories, at Archaeo Histories on Twitter. A 73-year-old man dressed as an ancient Greek warrior runs an entire marathon barefoot to honor his ancestors. Heraklion native Idomeneas Avramakis. Very Greek name. Once again, amazed spectators and fellow runners at the Athens Authentic Marathon. At 73 years old, this retired regional employee, renowned for running in full ancient Athenian hoplite attire, completed the grueling 42-kilometer race in 8 hours and 47 minutes. This marked his 18th consecutive year honoring the legendary journey of Phidippides in this historic costume. What sets Avramakis apart isn't just his dedication to tradition, but his resilience. Running barefoot, even in harsh conditions, he overcame a harrowing car accident just 30 months ago that left him with a metal rod in his leg. Yet with remarkable determination, he trained tirelessly to take part in this year's marathon. It's not about speed, it's about perseverance, Avramakis told Petrita newspaper. For him, the marathon is a celebration of human willpower, and every step is a reminder of his journey to overcome life's challenges. His story is one of triumph over adversity. 18 years ago, a serious health crisis left him in intensive care for a month. This experience transformed his outlook, leading him to embrace barefoot running, a practice he now cherishes for the connection it gives him to nature and the elements. His passion for running has taken him far beyond Greece, from marathons in China to countless domestic races. Avramakis leaves a lasting impression wherever he goes. Admired for his persistence, courage, and infectious optimism, he's more than just a runner. He's a symbol of unwavering strength. And, okay, here's the video of him. This is a real-life Giga Chad meme right here. All right, now you guys got to weigh in for me. Does this qualify as White Boy Summer content? Is this White Boy Summer here? Are Greeks white? Someone's going to have to tell me. Screwed Up Texas says, I hit a hole-in-one on a par 3 my very first time golfing when I was 13. Wow. That was, have you ever come close since then? I'm guessing if it was your very first time you were 13, it was sheer luck. But even then, like, that belies some kind of underlying talent. I bat left-handed but golf right-handed. You're one of the weird ones. I just learned Little Dark Ages by MGMT. Yes, Little Dark Ages is another banger. Modern Greeks are a little off-white. They're grandfathered in, I guess. Yeah, I could work with that. I think that's fair. Okay. All right, let's talk about this North Carolina situation. We haven't talked about it in a couple of days. Oh, we got a super chat. See you in the camp. Couple of cold, hard U.S. dollars. Says Electric Feel by MGMT is a banger. Yes. I mean, basically everything MGMT has put out is a banger. Okay. Steel yourselves. This is going to be very irritating if you haven't heard about this already. A group of coal miners from West Virginia finished building a road from Big Chimney in under a week, a road that North Carolina government officials said would take several months to a year for them to do. Appalachian Strong. This is from October 26th. So it was 5 weeks ago. Country Strong. Well, we have an update on the story. So, okay, he's just summarizing the story from this chick, so I'll just read the one tweet. This is Lisa Hudson Chow 7. Says a road was carved out in western North Carolina by the West Virginia coal miners so the volunteers could get supplies up to the people in Chimney Rock and beyond. FEMA came in and put up a big metal gate and told the volunteers they could no longer use that road. Someone tore down the gate, so now FEMA is getting a contract for $280,000 to put up another gate, cameras and guards to make sure no one trespasses. $280,000 that could be used on the victims of this storm. Now tell me why they would do this. I remember Governor Cooper saying in an interview that the people in Chimney Rock shouldn't rebuild. They just need to sell their land. Who is he to tell them they shouldn't rebuild? It's their land. But then there's the small matter of the lithium, and the people who own the land are in the way. The entire situation reeks of dishonesty. Here's a video from a local talking about it.
There in Candler, and the thing about the FEMA compound is it's not just pencil busters. They got a lot of agents, they got a lot of armed agents, and it's like, well, why do you have all this? Now, we know that they went and sealed off the road that the West Virginia coal miners had cut from Lake Lure. You'd be able to go from Lake Lure to Chimney Rock up the Bat Cave, because we were staged at Lake Lure when we first got here. And so we were sending supplies all the way around the mountain up the Bat Cave. Well, those West Virginia coal miners made us a road so we could hop skip up through Chimney Rock, and we were one of the first people taking loads up to it. We got from the new road, and I filmed everything going up so people could see what a good job they did. Well, now they shut the road. They put gates up. They're saying you can't use this road. Someone went down and torn the gates out, and now FEMA's getting a contract for like $280,000 to put cameras, more secure gates, and guards, and they're literally going to do everything they can to cut us off from the people who are running privately ran supply stations like what we're doing. They'll have a hard time cutting us off because they still want some sense of normality for all the people that are safe up in these mountains around us. They just wanted the valley wiped out. They want the eyesore, the poor. They want this land. Everywhere we're used to there.
So this was posted November 29. So four days ago. And then this guy, let's see. Yeah, his was November 30th. I'm just going to say, I'm going to highlight this tweet from good friend of the show, Mellon. He says, badly need manpower out on the North Carolina-Tennessee border. DM me if interested for contact or address. We're stopping people from freezing to death. Can find lodging for you. He tweeted this on November 27th, but I know it's still it's still the case. Go to at Mellon the Giraffe on X and DM him. Or if you're in the King Pill Discord, he's in there. If you need to get in touch with him, if you want to get connected to the OJC boys and the work that they're doing down there, then this is the way to do it. Hit me up. If you don't know how to get in contact with him, just hit me up and I'll direct you to him. You can send me an email, realkingpill@gmail.com. You can join the King Pill Discord at kingpill.com and talk to me there, or hit me up on Twitter at realkingpilled. I mean, if you're on Twitter, you might as well just go to at Mellon the Giraffe and hit him up directly. But as who's this in here? Bryce says, yeah, this is how things go kinetic. Yes. And I think that Kate says, makes my blood boil beyond belief. Trump needs to appoint someone to FEMA whose sole job is to shut it down ASAP. Right. This needs to be a top priority. I know that the Trump administration has a lot of top priorities, but this needs to be a top priority because I'd imagine there's a similar dynamic happening there as is happening everywhere else, where the different facets of the regime are pushing to see just how far they can push things as they scramble their way out of power. They're pushing to the absolute limits and testing the resolve. This is happening at like the macro scale with Putin, where they're testing Putin's resolve. Are we going to put you in a situation where you are forced to respond in a crossing a red line, a point of no return sort of response? Can we put that pressure on you and get that to happen before the inauguration? Because at this point, it's very clear that a lot of people are waiting until the inauguration. They're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. How much of a change is there going to be? And so I'd imagine that the people there locally, if you're the people there locally, I'd imagine part of the calculus here is how much does FEMA change after the inauguration? Because if FEMA is going to change their approach and be much less hostile, and I mean, it'd be better to just pull them out altogether. It would be better to just simply remove them from the situation than to have them behaving in this manner. So, to the people who are there, I would say, obviously, you need to do what you need to do to protect your communities. Hopefully, with the incoming administration, the FEMA policy changes drastically, and it doesn't necessitate the sort of things that this sort of progression of issues portends. I'm also very grateful for Twitter as an outlet and a way of getting connected with these things. So I'm going to keep highlighting these whenever I see them. And any of you out there, any of you who have any sort of reach, you should be doing the same, because we do have a mechanism right now for ensuring that these sorts of issues don't get pushed under the rug and don't just get ignored. If you can get some of this stuff to go viral, you'll get a response from Elon. And once you get a response from Elon, that basically ensures that it's going to become a major issue that people need to address. In completely unrelated and yet totally related news, Joe Biden announces $1 billion to help African nations rebuild homes hit by natural disasters.
You know, that's the right thing for the wealthiest nation in the world to do. And today, I'm announcing over $1 billion in new humanitarian support for Africans displaced from homes by historic droughts and food insecurity. We know African leaders and citizens are seeking more than just aid. You seek investment. So the United States is expanding our relationship all across Africa, from assistance to aid, to investment to trade, moving from patrons to partners, to help bridge the infrastructure gap. I was told, by the way, when I got elected, I could never get an infrastructure bill passed. From assistance to...
This is enraging. Absolutely enraging, but not surprising at all. And I have a story here that gives us confirmation that exactly what it looks like is happening is happening. There is no leadership right now. There is no leadership over the federal institutions. They are all rudderless, and they're filled with a bunch of parasite scum who are looting as much as they can on their way out. And we've got proof directly of this. Project Veritas just dropped this video from an EPA advisor admitting an insurance policy against Trump is funneling billions to climate organizations. Quote, "We're throwing gold bars off the Titanic. It was an insurance policy against Trump winning."
Now it's just how to get the money out as fast as possible before they come in and like pop up. It truly feels like we're on the Titanic and we're throwing like gold bars off the top end. Who are the gold bars going to? Nonprofits, states, tribes. We gave them the money because it was harder. If it was a government-run program, they could take the money away. If Trump won, and because it was a insurance policy against Trump winning. Until the Trump people come in and tell us we can only give them money. I do environmental climate policy things.
Really?
Yeah.
It's amazing. That stuff is here?
I mean, because I do like federal government climate things. Well, I have been doing that. That might change, but
why?
So we're going to EPA. small lot. Amazing. So I do, you know, the Inflation Reduction Act. You heard of it? Yes. Okay, Biden's climate law. Yes.
Real quick, I'm just going to say that we're watching in real time the creation of a very strong incentive for openly gay men to not be hired in any sort of important institution. Because of all the people in the world, they're the easiest, they're the worst intelligence gatherers and preparers. I suppose maybe they might be useful as gatherers, but all it takes is some guy very obviously digging at them, but giving them attention, and they will just lay out the entire playbook.
Yeah. So I do higher implementation. I work with like Biden appointees. The money that we've given out like tens of billions of dollars, like over the last year. Over the last year, we've given out like $50 billion. $50 million. Billion with B. $50 billion. Yes, for climate things. So like to go work for one of these places, I think would be really cool.
What? $50 billion for climate things. Climate things. Reminder, these are the enemies that all you fucking spurgs out there on the internet have been in such deep fear of. Oh, the regime. The regime. This is the regime. This is what they are. Climate things.
What are the places that you've given them to? It's only been a few weeks, so it's a little early. But like green banks. So they're like nonprofit institutions that are like making it more financially feasible to build renewables, to do like climate projects.
The dude has no idea. It's climate things. You know, climate things. The things good people do. Good people do climate things. And so institutions that help people with climate things are good. So we just get money. Our job is just there to advocate for as much money as possible for climate things.
I do implementation now. So I do like how do you spend $100 million? How do you make sure that like they're the proper, well, until recently, how do you make sure the proper like processes are in place to like prevent fraud and to prevent abuse and like ensure that like we are funding like good paying jobs and that sort of stuff. So now we're just having to get the money out as fast as possible before they come in and like
Really?
Yeah.
You can do that?
To an extent. Just like within reason.
Yeah, really? Yeah. Why not? Because if it's not gonna, basically that's where it all is now. I mean, now it all is like,
it truly feels like we're on the Titanic and we're throwing like gold bars off the top hatch.
Does it really? You gotta feel weird.
It's weird. I mean, it's weird. It's not good vibes. It's not good. I mean, everyone's very fast.
Who are the gold bars going to?
Nonprofits.
Interesting admission there. And this whole thing is an admission that they recognize their power is coming to an end. That should be significant to all the people, all the black pillars out there who are saying nothing's going to change. The people who are going to be affected most by the change clearly believe that it's going to happen. They clearly think so. They are taking drastic action to accommodate for the fact that they think that their power is coming to an end, that their shell game is the jig is up. So maybe apply the pressure. Maybe work on manifesting all of this, ensuring that it actually comes to pass, rather than wasting energy pointlessly on counter signaling it.
Cities.
Anything like in the news that I would know of?
The tribes there. What do you say? Nations, nonprofits, states, tribes, and cities. These are the different types of organizations they're trying to funnel money out to. The tribes one is interesting. I wasn't able to get this into today's episode, but I've got a story about Indian tribes and something interesting that's happening with them that'll be included in tomorrow's episode. But I found that a very interesting admission here.
Anything like in the news that I would know of?
Not yet.
Like any organizations, like.
Well, they're all local. A lot of them are small, not like local nonprofits. It's like a big thing that most of the stuff we funded, but the thing that we haven't funded yet are like the local nonprofit program that like was going to be like a inter-Kamala Harris administration program. So now we're just like getting it as quick as possible.
Right. It's to the tune of $50 billion.
No, it's like $2 billion at this point. But yeah, we got most of it, like 90% is out. But
wow. Yeah. And what happens if they try to stop it? They can?
When they come in, you haven't gotten out the door, then they can stop it. Yeah, like 2 months. If they don't get it out by a certain date, what's that date? It's the inauguration, the 20th. It's renewed on the 20th of January. Yeah. So you can work right down to the minute. It's probably like a left. Oh, yeah, it's basically new. Yeah. Hey, throw a couple billion here and there. It's until the Trump people come in and tell us we can no longer give them money. Wow. So that's at the very earliest. It's renewed on the 20th, and it's probably a little bit after because they have to get in the building and tell people what to do. Will they come in and stop? Yeah, like I think they will. I think they will come in and they will issue an order that like all grants have to stop. EPA can't give any money out until we reevaluate anything, and then they'll say we're reevaluating it, and then Congress will say we're stopping this entirely, and they'll pass a law that says all this money doesn't mean that you want to give out. No, I think we gave them the money because it was harder. If it was a government-run program, they could take the money away. If Trump won, and because it was a external policy against Trump winning. So like these are basically like nonprofit institutions that will cover the entire country. They could have been a government agency, but because they aren't, they're safer from Republicans taking the money. You guys are like saving the world, literally. I don't know if we are, but like we're throwing gold bars up at Titanic. Yeah. You're doing what? We're throwing gold bars up at Titanic. That's all we can say for today. I don't know if we're saving it, but we're getting the money out.
We're getting the money out. I'm very grateful for the Project Veritas people for getting these people on the record talking about exactly what they're doing. It's up to other people to act on it, but I'm very grateful that they're doing that. Because, like, this, if enough people will react to this accordingly, which I mean, I don't control. I have my little platform here. I can talk about it. But if enough people react to this accordingly and apply public pressure on this, then you can force the hand of all the different characters involved who might at some point potentially drop the ball. Because the vast majority, like if you think about the actual mechanics of how to end this sort of gravy train, or at least put a massive, massive dent in it, it involves a whole bunch of different individual people who are not necessarily super ideological. They're just kind of following the winds of power, and they, like managerial figures here and there dotted throughout all the different institutions that aren't necessarily hardcore bought in one way or the other on an ideological level. They're just going to follow the whims of power. So having documented evidence that they are funneling, the EPA is going out of their way to funnel as much money as possible out into the quote-unquote private sector to protect it from an incoming administration. The fact that they're openly talking about this, like the whole like throwing gold bars off the Titanic thing, he says it, like 3 or 4 times throughout this? I'm sure he didn't come up with that line himself. That's what people in the office are talking about. They're talking like this. So there's going to be paper trails galore. And you've got documented evidence of the special advisor in the EPA for what was it called? EPA advisor. Yeah, he was for applications or something like that. EPA advisor Brent Efron admits that EPA is throwing billions at climate justice nonprofits to buffer against a Trump presidency and then cashing in with a cushy post-government job. The climate hustle just got exposed. They did. The whole thing is now completely exposed, which means organizations like the Doge have a whole bunch of attack surface. And they can be, to whatever degree they lack the will to fully prosecute some of this, which I don't think there's any question that they do. There's like broad bipartisan support for the Doge going to work and actually doing things. So I think they can absolutely accomplish some stuff. But hold on, I'm getting too many notifications coming in here. I can't think. But they're already talking about going to war with the nonprofits. So they funnel all this money out into these nonprofits. Well, it can still be seized. Just go seize it. Ban the organizations. Bring all that money back. Cancel all the contracts. It's very obviously been, whether, maybe they dotted all their I's and crossed all their T's to do it legally on paper. I don't give a shit. This is plainly unlawful behavior. Even if you somehow figured out a way to make it quote unquote legal. It'd be best to be able to just criminally prosecute all these people Send them to Gitmo. But at the very least, all the money should be seized and all the organizations should be shut down. This is an interesting clip here from DNC official and former Kamala surrogate Lindy Lee. She says she knows for a fact that Obama and Pelosi did not want Kamala to be the nominee and that Biden endorsed her out of nowhere while Obama was vetting contenders. This is a first in a few different clips I have here of, like, the Bidens are extremely, extremely unpopular within the Democrat sphere at this point. And the Bidens still carry, I mean, the Bidens are one of the oldest crime families in Washington. So this is further indication of just how split up and divided and suspicious, mutually suspicious of one another, the entire Democrat establishment is now.
Do you agree that Obama and Pelosi did not want Harris?
I know they didn't. It's not, I have a lot of friends in Obama world, and actually I'm friends with Speaker Pelosi, and I spoke with her before I actually went on air to encourage President Biden to step aside. And I touched base with her camp before I did that.
And what did she tell you?
It's not a matter of conjecture for me. I know they didn't.
I appreciate that. What did she tell you at that time?
Well, she said it was fine that I went on air to encourage President Biden to step down. It was July 21st when I went on Fox News Sunday, and I said it was time for him to step down and pass the mantle to the next generation. It was necessary. It became clear that he was no longer able to effectively litigate the case against President Biden, against Trump. So, and Obama and Pelosi were both hoping for a primary instead of a coronation, so to speak.
Who do you think they were hoping for?
I don't think Pelosi was hoping for anyone in particular, or not that I know of. I do know that Obama was carefully vetting Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona. I know there were other names.
That was the name that seemed like all the momentum was moving in that direction. And I think Mark Kelly probably would have been, like, on his own, he's not a very impressive person, but to the squishy, normie, completely politically unconnected person out there, I think Mark Kelly would have been a very strong candidate. White man, astronaut, from a swing state, seems just very normal, just kind of an ordinary dude. He probably would have been a very, very good candidate. And this was he would have been good boomer lib bait, says Kate. Yeah. And so think about the relationship between Obama and Biden. Biden was Obama's VP, and it's been long rumored that they, what was the quote from Obama? He says, like, never underestimate Joe's ability to fuck things up. So Biden choosing to endorse Kamala immediately was very calculated, and it was a gigantic middle finger to Obama specifically.
Names on his list. I'm not saying that Kamala Harris is necessarily at the top of the list, but he was definitely considering other candidates. I don't think she was ruled out. I just think that everyone is, a lot of people, the chieftains of the party, were hoping for a lightning round, a lightning primary. And President Biden essentially preempted that by issuing his endorsement 30 minutes after he dropped out. I don't think anyone saw that coming. We did not see that coming. I think a lot of people anticipated that he might have stepped aside, but no one anticipated the twofer that we got that day.
It's so delicious. Biden is the villain. Dank Brandon strikes back. Moldy Space Foam says, did Labe cover the Trudeau dunking yet? No, that's coming shortly. And then also someone on Twitter commented and said, OP47 Infiltrator. So what about Korea? Talk about the martial law coup. I said at the beginning of the stream here, I'm giving that the 48-hour rule because I don't have any idea. Do I really look like someone who is really tuned in on Korean politics? There's like a tangential relationship where it's kind of important because of relationship with China and Taiwan and Japan and all that. But like the inner workings of Korean politics has never been something very high on my list of priorities to study and understand. So, you could just go Google something right now and you're going to get as good as I'm going to give you. I got to wait until see if something comes of it. See if we get more information on exactly what was going on. But all I could do right now is just share the bare details and say I have no idea what this all means. John says, theory, Jill Biden hates Kamala, also hates Obama because he was running the coup, so Jill endorsed Kamala and let her flame out. Yeah, I think that Jill's the one who masterminded all of this. I think, and people talked about a deal, some kind of deal between the Trump camp and the Biden camp, which would totally make sense. There's absolutely historical precedent for something like this. The Bidens, I've got another quote here on the general DNC opinion of the Bidens has actually been on thin ice for a little while. Here's Chuck Todd from NBC, as much of a regime toady as you could possibly get, talking about the Biden family for the position they placed Democrats in 2024.
I follow the Hunter Biden trial very closely. Mm-hmm. I read every transcript, all the testimony, because that's what all that was made public. And there is, you want to get angry, just as somebody in just all these mixed emotions. You read the Hallie Biden transcript, and that's Bo's widow.
Yes.
And essentially he turned her into a crack addict. And this was all happening in 2017, 2018. And Joe and Jill Biden were so concerned about their family that they decided to run for president.
Yep.
So when you talk about the word selfish, it's almost like the word doesn't, their decision to run for president put the entire Democratic Party and the United States of America in the position that it's in now.
Those are strong words. He's pointing to something that this isn't just like, oh, Biden suddenly... These are guys, they've been carrying water for him for 4+ years. But he's pointing to this dissatisfaction with the Bidens extending back a long ways. That them running for president in the first place was a way of protecting their own interests at the expense of the party. And this could be just retconning it all, but it doesn't really matter. Like, this is the state of mind of someone like Chuck Todd, who stands as the voice of a lot of major power brokers within the DNC. So Biden running in the first place, and if you remember the way that it happened, Biden was like, I don't know, 4th or 5th among the in the primary, when it was like right after South Carolina, I think. All of a sudden, all the candidates ahead of him all dropped out and endorsed him overnight. So the Biden crime family had some real pull. They were able to work that out, where all these other power centers, these that's what each of these candidates is like a locus of power for a power center. All of them were induced into endorsing him. Like, not just dropping out, but actively endorsing him and falling into line. So the Biden crime family had a tremendous amount of sway. I think the connection to Netanyahu should not be underestimated here. And that move, Netanyahu backing Biden because he had the dirt on him and could control him, meant that he was betraying Trump. And Trump, he's pro-Israel because Americans are pro-Israel. But he doesn't, have any special obligation to them. He's like, here, I'm going to do stuff for you, and then you're going to give me stuff in return. Because I'm concerned about the home front. He's always been a domestic policy first guy. So him working with Netanyahu and then Netanyahu stabbing him in the back and endorsing Biden and throwing his support behind Biden has put Netanyahu on Trump's permanent shit list. You just got to go look at the interview where he's asked about that. And his response is, Netanyahu, fuck that guy. You don't see Trump say those sorts of things about other people publicly very often. To just straight up say, fuck that guy, he couldn't have more contempt for him, because Trump is also well documented on the record as prioritizing loyalty above everything else. So someone who's disloyal to him is never going to be let back into the inner circle. Our relationship was transactional. Maybe we had a good working relationship because of that. You and my son-in-law are real close. So I'm gonna be magnanimous to you and make good overtures to work with you on your prized projects. And then you're gonna stab me in the back and endorse this corrupt, senile old man over me? Yeah, fuck you. Got another some more commentary on this is Chris Cuomo and Stephen A. Smith, which if you'd have told me a couple of years ago that Chris Cuomo would be positioning himself as this alt media guy talking politics with Stephen A. Smith, I would have assumed that the world had completely jumped the shark. So perhaps we have completely jumped the shark. But this is interesting rhetoric that I've been seeing from more and more people. I've got a couple other clips related to this one, but this is I will start with this one.
You know what else Biden should do? And I know people are going to get upset about this, but just think about it before you go crazy on me. Not you, everybody else. If I were he, I would pardon Trump.
You know something? Honestly,
I would say
honestly,
this
as
has gotta
crazy as
stop.
this sounds, Chris, that's exactly what I would do. That's exactly what I would do. Enough's enough. You know what? You're the Democrats. You lost the election. You got your butt whipped. You couldn't prevent him from going back to the White House. More than a dozen cases have been dropped against him. The cases that have been ruled against him, he's going to appeal, and he'll probably get off from having to deal with all of that. It's time to move forward. You want to get at Trump? Sit back and judge what he does. Guess what? You got a midterm election in 2 years. Are you going to be ready if you're the Democratic Party? You should be. You know, he's going to be the presidency for 4 years. You're going to be able to judge every single act that he does. March forward, move forward. You know, Gerald Ford could have let Nixon suffer. You know to say he didn't let that happen. Why? Because it was for the good of the country. The whole hanging Chads issue in 2000 between George W. Bush and Al Gore. Gore could have dragged it on. He didn't. It was for the better of the country. And a lot of times these folks speak about this stuff, but they don't do what they say they're going to do and what they implore others to do, which is where the disgust elevates exponentially for Washington, D.C., because we know they're full of it most of the time. And today was the latest example of that.
You know what else?
This feels like I'm watching an Onion skit or like an SNL skit or something like that. You have Stephen A. Smith weighing in on politics. But you know what's really interesting about part of the reason why I have such a love for the normie content is this sort of thing is a much stronger signal, I think, than anything that either side in a strictly partisan sense would actually say. Because these guys represent the reason why the shameless grifters, the cynical narrative portrayers, the reason why they move in this direction is because they're sniffing out where popular opinion is going. And so this is a safe way. This is a safe way for Cuomo to abandon the regime ecosystem without fully embracing the Trump ecosystem. They could sort of carve off this centrist position, independent, and sort of look at it objectively. And this is very, very appealing to a lot of people. The FanDuel American perspective is representative of probably a supermajority of the population. So if this is what they're talking about, it's because they're some of the best at sniffing the winds of change. They're like, oh, it's going this way, so I'm going to go that way. The fact that they are cynical grifters is a feature, not a bug. Here's a Chicago resident talking to Democratic Mayor Brandon Johnson, tells him to his face that Kash Patel and Pam Bondi are going to investigate, indict, and convict him for harboring illegal aliens. It's going to be an audit, then it's going to be an investigation, then it's going to be an indictment, and then pulls out orange prison jumpsuit, conviction. That's what's going to happen to you.
Brandon Johnson, the good news is we got 48 days before Trump take that oath. In January, ICE going to come in and get rid of the illegal immigrants. Here's the thing. In order for us to get these taxes, we got to get rid of these illegals. So this was going to happen to you. You got Kash Patel and Pam Bondi that you're going to have to deal with sooner than later. Then it's going to be an audit. Next, it's going to be an investigation. Then it's going to be an indictment.
Well, that's how you do it. Oh, I like that. Oh, my God. I like that. That's
Conviction. That's what's going to happen to you.
Oh, my God. One thing that Chicago people know very well is how to spot a scam. And the scam has been exposed. I want to say thank you to the city council. I want to say thank y'all for voting down that.
P. Ray Eastley. P. Ray? Pray? I'm trying to speak jive here to figure out what this says.
$300 million. Thank you for saving us $300 million. Thank you for saying no to $150 million. And we want y'all to say no to the $60 million. You all did not get enough hand claps, enough support, enough love. Know that the whole country was clapping and proud of the work of this city council because our mayor is embarrassing us, y'all, around the world. And you all took the power back from him to say the city of Chicago is out of the business of funding illegals. We are out of the business of prioritizing non-American citizens on top of the American citizens who go out in this cold weather every day to make money to pay their taxes.
The budget will be balanced. The budget will include investments. The ultimate work is to have real progressive revenue at the state level. Whatever we do in this particular budget cycle, we're going to have to do more statewide. And it's not limited to the state of Illinois. This is a dynamic that exists all over the country. And so that's why I said, by the way, Chase Redwinko has joined us, our city's comptroller. Our finance budget team, they are rolling up their sleeves, working hard every single day, not every single day with the governor's team, but every single day on this budget, but on a regular basis with the governor's team. I've had multiple conversations with Speaker Welch, the Senate president, other state reps and state senators, talking to our congressional leaders. This is an ongoing dynamic that really requires progressive, bold leadership in this moment.
Again, progressive revenue policies will only fail and continue to exacerbate the city's financial woes. I was recently in Nashville with my wife 2 weeks ago, and I just randomly met 4 people who had moved from Chicago to Tennessee because of the tax burden. A number of my friends moved to Colorado, they moved to Nashville, they moved to Texas. We don't want to move, but there's really no alternative. If we're just going to continue to raise taxes, people are not going to want to move here, or people are not going to want to stay here. Okay? The only way to get out of this budget crisis and insolvency is to increase the population and keep people here, encourage people to want to move here, encourage businesses to want to hire here.
The 2028 opposition platform, I almost said Democratic Party platform, but I'm still 50-50 on whether the Democrat Party is actually going to be the official opposition platform to whomever Trump's successor is. But we'll say it this way: the 2 primary contenders for president in 2028 are both going to be very strongly, vocally against illegal immigration. This is that's the only place for it to go. Really, Bernie Sanders, in a lot of ways, is the future of whatever the opposition party is. He was a man ahead of his time, you might say. Because it wasn't that long ago that he was very vocally anti-illegal immigration, because illegal immigration is really, really bad for working class actual Americans, which is what his ostensible, the demographic he ostensibly represents. But yeah, the illegal immigration a political battle has completely tilted. It's been made overwhelmingly evident that mass deportations must happen. And yeah, for these people, as Brent said, they realize the Gibbs could be going elsewhere. Yes, that's the exact way to get them on board, is to let them know the Gibbs might be going somewhere else. Whatever new empire, whatever new regime that you put together, you just need to factor in the cost of the Gibbs. That's the price of power. Factor in the cost of the Gibbs and build around it. But the existence of the Gibbs becomes a very powerful leverage tool against those who have been holding those people hostage with Gibbs while undermining and destroying them in the process. Continuing with this trend of, we still got a long ways to go here, folks. We're still on the first of 4 browsers. Continuing with this trend of prominent blue cities changing, vibe shifting. Here's Eric Adams. No surprise, you try to prosecute the guy, you make him a public enemy of your political party, and he very happily jumps into the arms of your opposition.
Those who are here committing crimes, robberies, shooting at police officers, raping innocent people, have been a harm to our country. I want to sit down and hear the plan on how we're going to address them. Those are the people I am talking about, and I would love to sit down with the Board of Czar and hear his thoughts on how we're going to address those who are harming our citizens.
You're open to that.
Open to
hearing what their plan is to deport some of these folks, and you think the city, in some circumstances, should cooperate with ICE.
Let me. You know what's interesting? And I was talking to the team the other day. I want you to all go back and Google Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. Google what they said about those who commit crimes in our city and what they said in our country. They said those who commit crimes need to get out right away. That was their position. So this is not a new position, because in the state of in the era of cancel culture, no one's afraid to be honest about the truth. Well, cancel me, because I'm going to protect the people of the city. And if you come into this country, in this city, and think you're going to harm innocent New Yorkers and innocent migrants and asylum seekers, this is not the mayor you want to be in the city under.
Again, the cynical grifters, the cynical power pursuers, they're the ones to listen to, because they're the ones who are the first to sense when the winds change. And that's exactly what this guy is. A couple related stories to that. Here's one report. New York closes several migrant shelters ahead of Trump's January 20 inauguration. There are plans to close more.
In the last month, the city has closed 11 shelters, 1,800 rooms at places like the Americana Inn on West 38th Street, the Voyage Hotel in Long Island City, and the Hotel RL in Brooklyn. But that's not all. There are also plans to close upstate hotels in Albany, Dutchess, Erie, Orange, and Westchester counties that currently house 900 asylum seekers. Randall's Island, which has about 2,000 migrants, is scheduled to close in February. It's saving the city a ton of money.
We've been able to save over $2 billion. So to me, that's the real story here. And now we're going to continue to manage this crisis and make sure that we're able to downsize.
The Legal Aid Society is also concerned about Floyd Benefield and whether it could be the target of immigration raids.
The Legal Aid Society would obviously like to see the site close and for families to be rehoused, ideally close enough to their children's school so that they're not completely just, displaced from the neighborhood.
Now, don't get it twisted. What's happening here is she's making it clear here. If I'm putting the pieces together, what's happening is they're trying to get these people relocated to make it harder to deport them. But that's progression. You no longer have this industrial scale importation scheme happening, and all the local people are like, yeah, get them out. I don't care. Just get them out of here. Get rid of this whole thing. Nature is pivoting to the MAGA agenda. And the regime is left throwing gold bars over the Titanic. Because they know what's coming. As an idea of just how frickin' insane this is, as if we need more evidence, John LaFave tweeted this a couple days ago. He says, the city of New York pays $220 million to rent the entire Roosevelt Hotel in Manhattan to house illegal migrants. This is like the Roosevelt Hotel in Manhattan, and the city of New York is paying $220 million to rent it in New York to house illegal migrants. Who are they renting it from? The hotel is owned by the government of Pakistan. And the deal was part of a $1.1 billion IMF bailout package to help Pakistan avoid defaulting on their international debt. So as part of an IMF bailout package, this is not an American organization. The IMF, a non-American organization, gave an American property to a non-American country to help them avoid defaulting on their international debt. And it's now being used to house invaders into America. How can you possibly tell me that there is such thing as an American empire? This is not an American empire. There's an empire, all right, but it sure as hell ain't American. It has American properties. It has American people within it, but there's nothing American about it. Prior to the Sweetheart deal, the hotel had been closed since 2020, having long struggled with occupancy and in dire need of renovation. The lease agreement is expected to generate revenues to the tune of around US $220 million for the Pakistan government. So the city of New York is paying $220 million a year to the Pakistan government. There are bank transfers happening where money is taken from the city of New York and sent to the Pakistan government so that illegal immigrants can be housed in the city. A contract was signed for 1,250 rooms. The hotel will be returned to the government of Pakistan once the 3-year term lease expires. Which is very interesting. So we only needed a 3-year lease for all these illegal migrants. Like at the end of that 3 years, we're not going to need this anymore to put these illegal migrants in. Look who replied. U.S. is the largest contributor to the IMF. Pakistan owns Roosevelt Hotel. IMF gives Pakistan money. New York pays Pakistan government to house illegals in New York at the hotel. Long story short, Americans are paying Pakistan to house illegals in America. And this money, the U.S. is the largest contributor to the IMF, $117 billion a year. Americans aren't sending $117 billion a year to them. $117 billion a year is being stolen from Americans, extorted from Americans, and given to them. No American wants this to happen. Because if you want this to happen, by definition, you're not an American. I don't care what your legal status says. You're not an American. More New York City stuff. Daniel Penny is greeted with chants of guilty as closing arguments began in the Jordan Neely chokehold case. So this is Councilwoman Vicky Palladino, a New York City Council member representing District 19 of Queens. She said, I attended closing arguments in the Daniel Penny case today to support Daniel and his legal team. What I witnessed was a travesty the likes of which I didn't think possible in the United States. I saw a despicable excuse for a DA stand up in front of a court and flagrantly lie for no other reason but to destroy the life of a good man for the crime of protecting a train full of people from a violent, deranged bum. The fact that an angry, disheveled, spiteful woman like that can vindictively wield the law on behalf of our city is an embarrassment to our entire legal system. You should go find pictures of this prosecutor. I should have saved something. I didn't. I just saw him when I was scrolling by. But she looks exactly like you would expect her to. Physiognomy does not lie. It is the one true hard science. And it shows how nakedly and unapologetically political the Manhattan DA's office has become. Shame on us for allowing our once great city to descend to this level. I'd call it a clown show, but that would imply there's an element of humor in any of this. There isn't. I only pray that the jury can see through this charade and find Daniel Penny innocent. Either way, the damage has been done and the message is clear. The Manhattan DA will not think twice about destroying the life of people, of anyone who stands up to criminals in self-defense. We are to be ruled by the lawless. Alvin Bragg has to go. Period. Ah, look who jumped into the comments. Elon says, wow, that's terrible. And she replied, Elon, you have no idea. We need a lot of help here. Please keep us in mind. The GOP has significant opportunity to make gains in the next couple of cycles, but we need resources and personnel desperately to capitalize on the momentum that's been building. Now, all the other context that I've showed you guys here, everything else that's happening with this vibe shift, should tell you the trajectory of where this is going. Regardless of the actual outcome of the court case, it's going to be a defining moment. Because if he's found guilty, shit's going to go sideways. If he's not, then it's going to be clearly evident to everyone that the vibe shift is here. And it will be devastating to the power of people like this disgusting wretch of a woman and Alvin Bragg. And I don't know if when we're supposed to find out about the. I know the closing arguments just happened. I don't know when we're supposed to find out exactly what happened, what the verdict is. But if it happens while I'm doing the show, then someone throw it in the comments here. Okay, so some interesting takes here from Ron DeSantis, talking about if Biden can pardon his son, he has no excuse not to pardon Trump. And it would be very funny to see Biden pardon Trump on his way out of office. Like, normally the pardons are announced on January 20th, it's very interesting that this one was announced so early. And also, one thing I missed when I was talking about this yesterday, the pardon was announced on December 1st. And the term that the pardon was concerned with was from, I think it was December 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024. The pardon was announced on either the 30th or the 1st. So he actually pardoned him into the future. I don't even think that's possible. Like, if he said through 11:59 p.m. Eastern time on December 1st, and Hunter went out and committed some obvious crime, I can't imagine that pardon would actually hold up. But it would be really, really interesting to see how it would play out, because it would be it would have profound impact on the idea of the presidential pardon. But anyways, the fact that it happened when it did is very, very interesting to me. I don't know exactly what to take from that, but I know we're going to know in retrospect why it was done so early. I think things are going to happen such that we're going to know in retrospect. But if Biden actually pardoned Trump, I don't think that it's out of the question. I think it's entirely conceivable that it could happen, because I think by January 20th, like, Biden's already, like sentiment is really turned against him. He's still got, what is that, like 7 weeks? 8 weeks? No, probably 7 weeks. 6 or 7 weeks as president still. Lots of stuff can happen between now and then. And with Tom Luongo, if his thesis that they're going to try to 25th Amendment Biden so that they can get Kamala in there to start World War III, provoke a nuclear launch, and then suspend the transfer of power or whatever. There's a bunch of different directions they could go with this. They're obviously working on something. And having... I wonder if one of the reasons, I've been thinking through it, like, why would they be getting Biden out of the way? Because, like, Biden just announced this $1 billion to Africa. Like, if Biden has been turned and he's persona non grata, but they could still operate around him. They have all this time. There's no way that Biden was the one who gave the okay for the strike into Russia. Like, he's obviously not operating or functioning on that level. So why would they need to 25th Amendment him? But this possibility is very interesting to me. If they think that he might pardon Trump, that would give them extra incentive to 25th Amendment him. Jason says Biden also essentially pardoned himself and just signaled to Team Ukraine that it's Jover. Yes. So some interesting thoughts here on that from old Ronnie boy. And then he also has some commentary on Pam Bondi and Kash Patel that I think was very appropriate and sends some signals. So we're just going to watch this entire clip.
Joining me now is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Governor, been dying to talk to you tonight about this. Do you expect that, given the reaction to this pardon, that Biden would also issue a pardon to, I don't know, President Trump or any of Trump's associates proactively and preemptively?
Well, Laura, I think the American people spoke on that. Here you have Joe Biden. One, he lied to the American people again, and his whole presidency has been a blizzard of lies. But he didn't just pardon his son on specific offenses or even commute the potential sentences there. He pardoned him for everything from going back to 2014 to the present. Why? Because they wanted to be able to protect against any inquiries into the Biden family business. And we know that has been subject to scrutiny for many, many years. And so this is a guy that came into office saying his predecessor was a threat to democracy, a threat to our institutions. And what does he do? He corruptly abuses the pardon power to give his son blanket immunity and by extension protect himself from having any inquiry. I think it's the opposite with President Trump. They manipulated the law to go after Donald Trump for political reasons. And just think about it, Laura, you've watched politics for a long time. If the electorate actually believed Donald Trump was guilty of serious federal crimes, he would not have been elected in the manner that he did. So the American people spoke, not only rejecting Biden-Harris's policies, but also rejecting the abuse of the legal process against Donald Trump. Those cases are dead. Donald Trump doesn't need a pardon. I think if Biden tried to do it, it may just be too cute by half.
Governor, Pam Bondi is, of course, the president's nominee to be Attorney General. She was Attorney General, obviously, of the great state of Florida. How do you expect her to take on what is desperately needed, a reform of the DOJ, and obviously a nominee for the FBI, Kash Patel? But let's start with Bondi.
Well, I think the mission there is to understand that this is an institution that's run amok. And you got to go in there, and I think Pam will. Don't try to be liked by the bureaucrats. Expect to be attacked relentlessly by the corporate press. And know that when that happens, that's a badge of honor. That means you're doing the right thing. The bureaucrats are not going to like you. They're going to try to stifle. So you got to go in with that mindset, understanding we need major reform. And then I think you also have to go in understanding the levers of power that are available to you, because they will try to frustrate. Maine justice has, of course, become a cesspool. You also have little outposts that think they're immune from accountability, like the Southern District in New York. So have a plan to be able to go bring accountability to that and restore the rule of law. There's a lot that needs to be done. I was, back in the day, a special assistant U.S. attorney 20-some years ago. It was an institution then. I think we thought of a lot differently than now. So just understand, this isn't your father's DOJ. This is an institution run amok. You are going to ruffle feathers. People are going to be upset when you do the right thing, but take that as positive feedback.
Now look at what they did to you.
It's interesting because he's very personally acquainted with Pam Bondi. They don't need Ron DeSantis to go on TV and deliver a message to Pam Bondi. If he has something to say to Pam Bondi, he could shoot her a text. I'm sure he's had these conversations with her extensively. So him giving this message to Pam Bondi here is not him sending a message to Pam Bondi. This is him sending a message to someone else. And it's establishing a narrative. So DeSantis has obviously, he was tapped to be by some to be the inheritor of the MAGA mantle, and that went extremely poorly. And he's much more in his element once again as the, approximate ruling monarch of Florida. And Florida now, we're getting this flog built up, the Florida occupied government. So DeSantis still holds legitimate power, and if he plays his cards right, he could still be a legitimate power broker in the party. But one of the big questions is going to be his loyalty to Trump. So I don't know what all he's signaling here, but I know one of the things he's doing is he is signaling to Trump that he's fully endorsing, fully backing, and pressing forward his vision, and showing, hey, I'm on board. I'm part of the good guys club here.
You during COVID. Look at what they did to you from the beginning, and you just kept going on hurricane relief and all the rest. Now, Governor, the FBI itself has also been a cesspool of corruption. And not to say there are not some good people in the FBI, there obviously are. But what do you say to the senators on Capitol Hill that are already quietly vowing to put up roadblocks to the president's choice to be FBI director, Kash Patel? What do you say to them given the outcome of this election?
So, one, I think you do owe the president a great deal of deference on his picks. Kash Patel understands the problems with the FBI, and he is a reformer that will not be captured by the bureaucrats. Contrast that to our current FBI director, Christopher Wray. We remember when he got appointed back in 2017, he immediately became a company man and was captured by that institution. He has not reformed it in any way, shape, or form. And so I actually think Kash has a lot of very significant experience that's important here. But put that aside, you can be the smartest guy in the world, you can have all this experience. If you don't understand that the institution needs to be reformed, if you get captured, then you're done. You're not going to be effective. And so I think Donald Trump in this pick and others, he's making sure he's getting people who have the proper posture to these institutions. These are not the revered institutions that they may have been 30 years ago. These are very problematic institutions. Kash understands that. I think a lot of Republican senators understand that, but apparently not enough do.
Do you expect him to get confirmed, Governor?
I do.
All right. Governor DeSantis, thank you so much. Great to see you, as always. And I mean,
so as I said yesterday, Kash Patel is a Gates-level pick in terms of the outrage, the fear, he's a bulldog. Like the fear that he's going to generate in the people there is legitimate. So you would expect there to be significant opposition to him. However, This was part of the value, I think, in the Gates pick, you're announcing that early, drawing out all of the people, conceding on that, and then announcing the Kash Patel pick. I was saying it's weird that he keeps being rumored. He's the one candidate who's been rumored for this position for a long time, but it hasn't been confirmed. It's been talked about for, I don't know, it was like 2 or 3 weeks that people were talking about it before it was actually announced, and it was after the whole Gates thing. So I think those two picks were connected. There's a few different ways I could see that playing out, but I think at the root of it, the two picks were connected. So once Gates withdrew his name, then the ground was established for them to announce the Patel pick, which is going to be much harder to oppose on practical grounds for these, squishy normie Republican types. And there's been a few people now, like Tom Tillis, who's one of these, very much for sale guys, said that he thinks that he's going to be nominated, that he's going to vote for him. Mark Wayne Mullen, who was one of the guys in opposition to Gates, he came out and said that he's gonna vote for him. Johnny Ernst from Iowa said she's going to, and I think there was a couple others. So now you've got DeSantis, who I think is probably properly seen still as one of the princes of the MAGA movement. He might be sort of like the older brother who is sort of at odds with his dad, and so it's not necessarily clear that he is naturally going to be the heir. I don't think he's going to be the heir, but I'm kind of playing with the palace politics motif. I think DeSantis is still one of the princes of the MAGA movement, and having him come out and throw his full-throated endorsement behind him is part of setting the stage for Patel's acceptance by the Republicans, even the ones who don't want him there. Kate says, I just keep wondering what Trump and his team are doing to force all those rhinos to bend the knee. I suppose their worship of norms will force their hand here. Yes, that's one of the things that they can leverage against them. Okay, last tab on the first browser window. We like to make fun of our limey cousins here, but in this one, this is sad. This is very sad. The historic meat and fish markets of Smithfield and Billingsgate in London, which is, I'm sure, Smithfield is probably pronounced like Smiddled or something, which have been in operation for over 850 years, are being permanently shut down. Why? The City of London Corporation voted to withdraw their support for these markets, choosing instead to use the land for housing development. I think you guys are smart enough to read between the lines here. So these 850-year-old food markets, 850 years old. America is a child on the world stage. America is like in its adolescence. An 850-year-old food market. And it's being closed because the City of London withdrew its support for these markets and is going to use that land to house Africans. Forget Canada. I think the UK needs some freedom. All right, more vibe shift here. Times in America are definitely changing. Baltimore Airport. This is Baltimore Airport. Has been stocked with Donald Trump inauguration merchandise.
All right, I'm in the Baltimore Airport. Check this out. I never thought I would see this in the Baltimore Airport. Baltimore Airport got inauguration President Trump gear all in the airport. Come on now, look at this. How awesome is this? Way to go, Baltimore. We've even got the bobblehead, shot glasses. Over on this side, Trump Vance shirts. We're in the airport. Hey, I'm super impressed, Baltimore. Way to go, Baltimore, supporting President Trump, President 47. He deserves to be in office. He's going to make America great again. And the airport. I'm in the airport, and they got Trump gear in the airport. Come on, there's a revival sweeping this nation. People have woken up. They know what's happening. It's going to be a great day. Hope you have a great day today. Trump 2024 is upon us. Celebration in the Baltimore airport.
So this is the white pill to me is I've said this before, all these different black swan events that the regime likes to traffic in. They've developed themselves a reputation for manufacturing black swan events and then using them to shift power to themselves. And that's exactly what the sort of scheme where, you know, they 25th Amendment Biden and then they install Kamala and then, I don't know, just declares martial law and suspends the election, or not the election, but suspends the certification of votes and induces Putin into nuking London or whatever. That sort of course of action, if they were to undertake that, you can see here how jarring that's going to be to the normie mind. The normie mind isn't going to be like, oh yeah, this makes sense. They're going to be like, what the fuck? Some hourly employee was tasked with the responsibility. So someone went and they ordered all of this merchandise. It was shipped there. Someone unboxed it all. Someone went out and put all of these things up there. And every single person who walks through the Baltimore airport is confronted with the reality that Trump is going to be inaugurated on January 20th, and everyone is accepting it. So any sort of move that the regime tries to make now to forestall any of this just blows up in their face. It just makes things worse. So I'm sure they're going to try things, but every single thing they try to do is just going to accelerate the loss of their own power. Because now it's seen transparently as just a cynical grab for power. You can't veil it in democracy or human rights or rules and norms or anything like that. The whole vibe has shifted completely against them. So Victor Willis, the singer behind the YMCA, has weighed in. All right, just had to let that play out so I can ensure that this episode gets demonetized. So Victor Willis, the singer behind YMCA, has released a message thanking President Trump for dancing to his song. He said the song has benefited greatly from Trump's use. Here is his post. Why I allowed President-elect Trump's continued use of YMCA and why the song is not really a gay anthem. To Village People fans in the media, I am the singer and writer of the lyrics to the hit YMCA. In fact, as was adjudicated and ruled in U.S. District Court, I wrote 100% of the lyrics, and my writing partner, Jacques Morali, wrote the music. Since 2020, I've received over 1,000 complaints about President-elect Trump's use of YMCA. With that many complaints, I decided to ask the President-elect to stop using YMCA because his use had become a nuisance to me. However, the use continued because the Trump campaign knew they had obtained a political use license from BMI, and absent that license being terminated, they had every right to continue using YMCA, and they did. In fact, I started noticing numerous artists withdrawing the president-elect's use of their material. But by the time I said to my wife one day, hey, Trump seems to genuinely like YMCA, and he's having a lot of fun with it. As such, I simply didn't have the heart to prevent his continued use of my song in the face of so many artists withdrawing his use of their material. So I told my wife to inform BMI to not withdraw the Trump campaign political use license. My French partners were contemplating legal action out of France, so I had my wife contact our French partners and ask them to stay out of the Trump campaign's use of YMCA because it's a U.S. matter and I will make the decision on his use. Our French partners quickly backed off their objection to his use. YMCA has benefited greatly from use by the president-elect. For example, YMCA was stuck at number 2 on the Billboard chart prior to the president-elect's use. However, the song finally made it to number 1 on a Billboard chart after over 45 years and held on to number 1 for 2 weeks due to the president-elect's use. The financial benefits have been great, as well as YMCA is estimated to gross several $1 million since the president-elect's continued use of the song. That's the reason why he's like, no. Don't you withdraw that license. I'm printing money here. Therefore, I'm glad I allowed the president-elect's continued use of YMCA, and I thank him for choosing to use my song. There's been a lot of talk, especially of late, that YMCA is somehow a gay anthem. As I've said numerous times in the past, that is a false assumption based on the fact that my writing partner was gay, and some, not all, of Village People were gay, and that the first Village People album was totally about gay life. Methinks the man doth protest too much. This assumption is also based on the fact that the YMCA was apparently being used as some sort of gay hangout. And since one of the writers was gay and some of the Village People are gay, the song must be a message to gay people. To that I say once again, get your minds out of the gutter. It is not. Sadly, when the president-elect started using the song, many people attempted to brand the song as a gay anthem, reaching a fever pitch as many used it to say, oh, Trump doesn't know the song is a gay anthem. This was done in a manner to attempt to shame the president-elect's use of the song. As I stated on numerous occasions, I knew nothing about the Y being a hangout for gays when I wrote the lyrics to YMCA, and Jacques Morali, who was gay, never once stated such to me. In fact, Jacques never once told me how to write my lyrics, otherwise I would have said to him, you don't need me, why don't you simply write the lyrics? Oh, man, I'm sorry, dude, I gotta tell you, you don't get to decide whether or not it's a gay anthem. Just like the gays don't get to decide whether or not it is now Trump's song. The Trump dance has taken over the YMCA. You don't do the YMCA dance anymore. You just do the Trump dance. So it was a gay anthem, no matter how much this guy might protest. But it is no longer. It has been colonized. Oh, I like watching your guys' comments with stories like that. All right, here it is. The man hasn't been inaugurated. He's not going to be inaugurated for like 7 weeks, and he's already threatening to he's already threatening to take over Canada and make it the 51st state.
And Fox has exclusive details about how that Mar-a-Lago sit-down went. The two talked tariffs over crab cocktail and oysters. At one point, Trump told Trudeau to get our trade deficit under control, telling the prime minister it is unacceptable for the U.S. to run up to like a $100 billion trade deficit. And if they don't, they can expect a flat 25% tariff on all Canadian goods day one. Trudeau apparently wasn't thrilled. Sacre bleu. You will kill our economy, he said. Then Trump said if Canada can't survive without ripping off the U.S., they're free to join America as our 51st state. And when someone at the table pointed out that that would probably be a pretty Democrat state, Trump says we'll split Canada in two, the conservative side and the liberal side, to keep it fair electorally. And if Justin wants to stick around, he can be Canada's governor. And
Do you know how much someone would pay to get the video of that conversation? we can't afford that. All right, you can become the 51st state. Well, if you do that, it's probably going to be a super liberal state. Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay, we'll cut it in half. We're going to have the conservative Canada and the liberal Canada. Of course, in terms of population, I think California has a larger official legal population than Canada does. Now, I don't know. Both of those numbers are going to be pretty questionable after the policies of the last little while. But yeah, we will absolutely take Alberta and the Maritimes. Yes, please give them to us. I'll take Saskatchewan too. Yeah, I'll bet you none of it in the Northwest Territories. There's probably some good stuff up there. It's funny, the memes are becoming reality. It reminds me of when Trump said that he remember he tweeted out that there was rumors about him wanting to buy Greenland, and he said he's like, I'm not going to do this, and posted the meme of Greenland with the Trump Tower on it. This is only Donald Trump. Only Donald Trump would just say these things. It turns out you can just say stuff. You can just say stuff and it might happen. Next thing you know, Trump will be taking over ABBA songs. Total victory. We will colonize all of your cultural slop. So Delaware Chancellor McCormick, the judge who had previously ruled against Elon Musk's $56 billion compensation package from Tesla, has just again rejected the pay package, even after shareholders supported reinstating it. From CNBC, Tesla CEO Elon Musk on Monday lost his bid to get his 2018 CEO pay package reinstated when a Delaware judge upheld her prior ruling that the compensation plan was improperly granted. The package, worth about $56 billion, was the largest compensation plan in U.S. history for a public company executive. Tesla said in a post on social media platform X, which Musk owns, that it plans to appeal the ruling. Musk, in a separate X post, called the ruling absolute corruption. In January, Chancellor Kathleen McCormick voided the pay plan, ruling that Musk had individually controlled Tesla and dictated the terms of his compensation to a board that didn't fairly negotiate. She called the process leading to approval of that pay plan, quote, deeply flawed. Following the opinion, Tesla conducted a shareholder vote in June at its annual meeting in Austin, Texas, asking investors to ratify Musk's 2018 CEO pay plan. Musk's attorneys attempted to sway the judge to reverse her opinion after the trial, leaning on the results of the vote. Quote, even if a stockholder vote could have a ratifying effect, it could not do so here, McCormick wrote in her opinion Monday. Were the court to condone the practice of allowing defeated parties to create new facts for the purpose of revising judgments, lawsuits would become interminable. As part of Monday's opinion, McCormick approved a $345 million attorney fee award for the lawyers who successfully sued on behalf of Tesla shareholders in order to void Musk's pay plan. Again, throwing gold bars overboard off the Titanic. This is another last-ditch effort to loot as much as possible on their way out the door. We are pleased with Chancellor McCormick's ruling, I bet you are, which declined Tesla's invitation to inject continued uncertainty into court proceedings and thanked the Chancellor and her staff for their extraordinary hard work in overseeing this complex case. Attorneys from Bernstein, ding, Litowitz, ding, Berger, ding, and Grossman, ding, the firm representing the plaintiff said in a statement. Following the January decision, Musk lashed out at the Delaware court, posting on X, never incorporate your company in the state of Delaware. Tesla then held a shareholder vote to reincorporate in Texas and officially shifted its state of incorporation there. Musk has also moved the state of incorporation for his defense contractor company SpaceX to Texas from Delaware. Despite the legal setback, Musk has seen his net worth jump considerably in recent weeks. Excluding all of the options wrapped up in the pay package, Musk is more than $43 billion richer since Donald Trump's election victory in November. Tesla shares have soared 42% in the 4 weeks since the election on optimism that Musk's coziness with the incoming president will lead to policies favorable to his companies. The Tesla stock Musk still holds is worth close to $150 billion based on Monday's closing price. That alone, not including his SpaceX stake, would put him among the world's wealthiest people. Equilar estimates that at today's stock price, Musk's 2018 package would have risen to be worth $101.4 billion. And it is just pathologically insane that they voted to endorse the pay package originally, then they voted again that they want him to have this pay package. Tesla shareholders are pissed off online right now because they want him to get this pay package. And the judge is like, yeah, sorry, it wasn't fair. It wasn't fair to the shareholders. The shareholders are like, we want this. And she says, nope, it wasn't fair to you. He can't have it. So what do we know about this Kathleen McCormick? This from Kaneko the Great on Twitter. Just in, Delaware activist judge Kathleen McCormick declines to reinstate Elon Musk's Tesla compensation package, once again overruling the company's board and more than 72% of its shareholders. Instead, she ordered Tesla shareholders to pay $345 million in legal fees to attorneys representing the plaintiff, who owned just 9 shares of the company. 9 shares of the company. Judge McCormick previously ruled against Elon Musk during his acquisition of Twitter. Before becoming the head of the Delaware Chancery Court, McCormick worked at the Delaware law firm Young Conaway. For decades, this firm and its employees have been large donors to President Joe Biden. In 2016, Hunter Biden hosted a gubernatorial campaign event for Congressman John Carney at the offices of Young Conaway in Wilmington, Delaware. Then Vice President Joe Biden attended as the guest speaker. Carney, a close friend of Joe Biden for over 40 years, later became governor and nominated Kathleen McCormick, then a partner at Young Conaway, to her current position on the Delaware Chancery Court. In a March 2018 email, Hunter Biden claimed he had personal connections to every judge on the Delaware Chancery Court. He wrote, quote, I will bring the suit in the Chancery Court in Delaware, which as you know is my home state, and I am privileged to have worked with and know every judge on the Chancery Court. After Elon Musk purchased Twitter with the stated goal of promoting free speech, President Biden publicly called for a federal investigation into Musk. Subsequently, the Biden administration's Department of Justice, Securities and Exchange Commission, and Federal Trade Commission launched investigations and legal actions targeting Tesla, SpaceX, and X. This latest decision by Judge McCormick, who has ties to Biden's top donors and was nominated to the court by a close Biden ally, is another example of the Biden administration and its Democratic allies using the legal system to target political opponents. And then he's got sources for all of this. Here's the face of the Longhouse right here. That's a real interesting Joe Biden there. It looks like the date on this here was 2008. Boy, has that guy changed in appearance as he's gotten older. Amazing what old age will do to someone, huh? And then here's the sources of the emails that he mentioned. You can see these if you go to kingpill.substack.com. I'll post the stream here over there afterwards. That gets it out to all the podcasting platforms, and I include in that the links to all the stories that I talk about. So you can go find this one there from Kaneko the Great. And he says, thank you to Marco Polo 501c3, the opposition research group for the American people, for uploading the Biden emails into a searchable database at bidenlaptopemails.com. Charlie Kirk says, if 75% of the shareholders want this, that seems like a clear miscarriage of justice. Or Elon Musk earned every penny. Tesla shareholders rightly want him properly incentivized to keep him innovating on behalf of their own financial interests. He has many competing interests. Elon says absolute corruption. It'd be very interesting to see what sort of little kickback she's getting as a part of all of this. Yet another batch of strings to pull on. Apparently, Mike Benz lit the internet on fire. He was on his episode with Joe Rogan posted early this afternoon, and it's on my to-do list tonight to listen to it. I'm very, very interested to see what he said. Michael Hassler says, Ryan Turnipseed said to the Prudentialists, the techno-capitalists speak very fondly of Rand Paul, and Ron Paul is not a techno-capitalist. Ryan Turnipseed argument is we should align ourselves with them. Can you elaborate on that? That's another one that I have bookmarked to listen to, the Ryan Turnipseed and Prudentialist conversation. So he's saying the techno-capitalists speak very fondly of Rand Paul, and Ron Paul is not a techno-capitalist. Ryan Turnipseed's argument is we should align ourselves with them, meaning align ourselves with the techno-capitalists. $10 super chat. Some Leaf bucks from Slosher. See, folks? We've already got them. We already got the Leafs. He says, boy, I sure do hope nobody tells Trump that China interfered with our last election and the government has blocked the investigation being released, saying which members of parliament are compromised. Boy, I hope no one tells him. Wouldn't it be a shame if Canada needed to be liberated as well? We're going to liberate Canada, We're going to liberate Mexico. We're going to liberate the UK. Might even liberate the rest of Western Europe. What do you think? Australia? I don't know. Jason's in Australia. We might need to leave them to themselves. I think Jason can take care of them. Okay, yeah. So I agree. I'd be interested to hear his argument because I agree that we should align ourselves with the techno-capitalists. I think they're absolutely good friends to have, or even if they're not friends, they're good allies. And we live in a world that's defined by political coalitions. So we've talked about kayfabe here quite a bit, and now we've got Paul Tudor Jones talking about kayfabe. One of the titans of Wall Street himself is describing the economic situation right now. This is a very interesting little insight into the minds of into the broader Wall Street mind in general, because Paul Tudor Jones is a significant figure within the industry, and as many people have documented, Wall Street clearly has thrown their weight behind the MAGA agenda because of how much they will benefit from it.
There's a term that I'd never heard of called kayfabe. And in wrestling parlance, that represents...
It's kayfabe, but kayfabe works.
The unspoken, unwritten, tacit agreement between the wrestlers and the fans about the illusion that's going on in the ring, the suspension of disbelief that what's going on in the ring is actually, we know it's scripted and we know it's a performance, but they ask us to think it's genuine and real.
And so that's what you think this is?
Yeah, we're in an economic kayfabe right now. And it's not just the United States we're in it.
Okay, I can't not hear it now. It sounds exactly like you saying kayfag.
In the UK, in France, Greece, Italy, Japan being the biggest of all. It's this economic kayfabe. And the question is after this election, will we have a Minsky moment here in the United States and U.S. debt markets? Will we have a Minsky moment where all of a sudden there's a point of recognition that what's going to happen or what they're talking about is actually fiscally impossible, financially impossible?
So are you betting on a Minsky moment?
I am clearly not going to own any fixed income, and I'm going to be short the back end of fixed income because it's just completely the wrong price.
Very, very interesting. So... got mustache hairs in my mouth. Not going to be owning any fixed income. Fixed income? What's he talking about? He's talking about debt investments. And he's saying that there's basically everything is fake and gay. This is the Wall Street Titan way of saying everything is fake and gay. And so in a moment where everything is fake and gay, they're going to want something real to invest in. They want to put their money somewhere that is going to be safe, something that's real, something that isn't some sort of boondoggle sales pitch. Now, Stormy, if you guys have listened to Stormy Waters, you've heard him talk about when he was talking to a very prominent. I can't remember what role it was. She was some sort of a sat on the chair, was on the board of the IMF or European Central Bank or something along those lines, some sort of global finance person. And he was talking to her about the Eurodollar system, the way the whole thing works. And she was oblivious. She had no idea. And he said, he'd mentioned that this was one of the first real cues to him that the people who are running the show have no idea what's happening. They're idiots. These aren't like mega brain genius evil supervillains. They're actually just stupid people who are managing systems that were set up by people who are much smarter than them, who actually understood the mechanisms of all of this. They don't understand it all. They're just there basically expecting it to run itself, and then they just make some tweaks around the edges. But these are very stupid people. Here's another example of this type of person. This clip was going around a while back, and it just got re-upped again because there's a bunch of Bitcoin stuff that's happening. And so I've got several Bitcoin stories to follow this, but listen to this guy here.
The U.S. government can't go bankrupt because we can print.
So this is Jared Bernstein, chair of the Council of Economic Advisors for President Joe Biden. So if you have a bell, ding your bell. Jared Bernstein.
The U.S. government can't go bankrupt because we can print our own money.
It obviously begs the question, why exactly are we borrowing in a currency that we print ourselves? I'm waiting for someone to stand up and say, why do we borrow our own currency in the first place?
Like you said, they print the dollar. So why does the government even borrow?
Well, again, some of this stuff gets, some of the language that some of the language and concepts are just confusing. I mean, the government definitely prints money, and it definitely lends that money, which is why the government definitely prints money, and then it lends that money by selling bonds. Is that what they do? They sell bonds. Yeah, they sell bonds, right? Because they sell bonds and people buy the bonds and lend them the money. Yeah. So a lot of times, at least to my ear with MMT, the language and the concepts can be kind of unnecessarily confusing, but there is no question that the government prints money and then it uses that money to I guess I can't really talk. I don't get it. I don't know what they're talking about. Like, because it's like the government clearly prints money. It does it all the time, and it clearly borrows. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this debt and deficit conversation. So I don't think there's anything confusing there.
What in the hell? A chief economic advisor. He sounded like, you know what that reminded me of? That reminded me of the, what do you call it? The fashion show, Miss America beauty pageant. The beauty pageant chick who came up there and like talked about world peace. These are the people running the show. The government prints money and then it sells bonds. Yeah, it sells bonds. So it prints the money and then it sells the bonds. So we're borrowing our money back that we print. And yeah, that's, it's people try to make it too complicated. It's just real simple. What in the fuck, man? So this is the state. This is the type of thing that Paul Tudor Jones is talking about. He's like, yeah, I have no interest in being a part of this at all. This is all a bunch of performative fake shit. Where these people are making these promises that they're never going to be able to cash into. And just money printer go burr, capture as much as we can before we try to peace out and spend our days in the Bahamas or whatever. So, with that backdrop then, there's a, what do you call it? There's a drum beat. There's a drum beat picking up here with the idea of the strategic Bitcoin reserve. This is a good community to follow. Irresponsibly long MicroStrategy. If you're interested in keeping track of all the commentary and news and stuff coming out of this corner of the internet, this is a good community to follow. So here is Peter McCormick, which I know he's a controversial fellow, but he tells an interesting story here.
I'll tell you an interesting Trump story from last night, and I won't dox the other person because it's unfair on them. But we were at a party last night, and we were chatting to somebody, and their father is a very, very famous person. I'll tell you offline. You're not going to say it, are you? Trump's orange-pilled this person. So people are saying, oh, Trump's just here for our votes. No, Trump's orange. So this is somebody they've been trying to orange pill for years, right? He's like, yeah. We were chatting to him last night. And he said, "Yeah, no, Dad's in now." I was like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah,
Trump called him up."
Yeah, Trump called him up. We were like, "What?" Yeah, Trump called him up. Yeah, he's like, Trump called him up, and he said, Bitcoin, it's the new oil," and they're in. So Trump isn't just here for votes.
Bitcoin is the new oil. Or you might say data is the new oil. Shout out to Jason Miranchuk. The drumbeat is picking up. And I've got a couple more clips on this particular subject, starting with this one, Luke Groman describing Bitcoin as the new oil. Before that, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Number one is the King Pill Discord, kingpill.com. And we got a special incentive for those of you who want to join. This is a Axios Fitness Coaching, one of our beloved partners, says the current moment we live in is one that prioritizes the inverse of whatever makes men strong, healthy, and capable. The quality of our food continues to decline, plastics construct everything around us, and the virtues of beauty and strength are continuously denigrated by spiteful mutants. To sustain ourselves, we have to take a pathway of action that cultivates and revitalizes our spirit. Return to being builders of culture instead of consumers of a cheap synthetic excuse for life. That pathway will require an adoption of physical discipline. And this is what Axios Fitness Coaching seeks to help bring about. It's a premium resource for holistic strength and conditioning services. Axios offers standalone training programs as well as individual coaching options should your needs require a more specific approach. So if you've got some kind of injury, if you have a regular training routine, but you need something that's more tailored, you've plateaued and you need something tailored to you directly, they have options like that for you. Axios is best known for the Training Club, an exclusive community that prioritizes accountability, technique, diet, and nutrition. Everything you need to take action against the decay of modernity. By joining the club, you get access to over 20 different programs that can be personally tailored to your strength levels, available equipment, and injury history. By completing the intake survey, you can see if you're a good candidate for the training club or any of their other services. It's long past time we take our health back into our own hands. Without action, there is only degeneration. So this is your call to fight back against the degeneration and the decay of modernity. Go fill out the intake survey. There's a link in the description. You'll see it, Axios Fitness Coaching, with the link there. Or you can join the King Pill Discord by going to kingpill.com, and you'll get 5 free training modules. You get access to the app, and I've heard, I haven't started using it myself, but a number of the different guys in the Discord have been using it. I'm tracking their feedback on it, and heard very, very good things. It looks like a very slick app, very easy to use, very detailed. And you'll get 5 free training templates with that. This is what the intake survey looks like. It's free to fill out. There's the link in the description. Or if you join the King Pill Discord right now at the Lord or the King tier, then you will get access to those 5 free training templates, and you can fill out the intake survey. So you can get started, get a little taste of it, and then you can go fill out the survey here. Here's an example of it. What training goal are you looking to improve most? And JD is always available in the King Pill Discord. We've got a fitness channel specifically that he's regularly answering questions in and posting his own results of his workouts. The guy is an absolute beast. He's exactly the type of person that you want to go to with training questions. So kingpill.com, sign up at the Lord or the King tier, and you'll get the 5 free training templates, or just go to the link in the description, click the link there, go fill out the intake survey, see what they can do for you. And then the last one, I mentioned this one to you guys yesterday and got a response that you guys were responsive. So I want to bring it up for people one more time. We've got a guy in the King Pill Discord who has made a 2025 Heritage American Family Calendar with kids and dogs, traditional conservative, $20 each. They just do them. They've made it at home. And how do I, okay, that's right here. Share the screen. If you want to support a family business, get a very wholesome 2025 Heritage American calendar. He and his wife made it together. They print them off. They put them together themselves there at home, and they'll ship them off to you. And he said he knew yesterday that I'd mentioned it on the show because all of a sudden the eBay account started blowing up. So it's good to see that you guys are responsive. Go support this family business. And one of our guys in the King Pill Discord has put together this great calendar. You can have these lovely images portrayed in your home for the next year. We appreciate all of the support that you guys give to our partners and the show itself. You can also go to buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled, and if you want to just throw a few no strings attached dollars my way, very much appreciate that, and you don't have to pay the YouTube super chat fee. And there's a link for that in the description as well. All right, so Luke Groman here describes Bitcoin as the new oil.
My sort of base case right now is that Bitcoin is the new oil, and the reason the Trump administration is so interested in this is I think they see exactly what Treasury and Paul Ryan are talking about, and that they're going to use Bitcoin like they did to oil back in 73, 74, which is, yes, the U.S. absolutely has a debt problem. Even Treasury's admitting it now. Even the Fed's admitting it now. Everyone knows it, and it's very acute.
Again, that's what Paul Tudor Jones is talking about. There's a debt problem. This isn't just like political reactionaries online or libertarians saying, oh, the debt. No, like the halls of power are being moved. They don't move very easily, but they're being moved by the recognition of this debt problem.
And we need balance sheet desperately. We need balance sheet anywhere that is not Fed balance sheet. And so we need a way to weaken the dollar while strengthening the dollar system. Mm-hmm. And you look at this and you go, gosh, this checks all the boxes. If we inflate the heck out of Bitcoin, you're going to increase stable coins. You're going to increase stablecoin demand for T-bills. What that will do, because Bitcoin is a global asset, is it will draw in dollars from around the world into T-bills, into stable coins. But at the same time, the dollar will be collapsing against Bitcoin. And it will be, ultimately, get Bitcoin high enough, it's going to be pretty inflationary, right? People are going to be, and stimulative. So that's what I think Trump may have meant by Bitcoin is the new oil. That's my sort of working hypothesis. I'm waiting and looking for something that would refute that. Thus far in the new administration, I'm not seeing anything other than sort of, okay, I think I'm onto something here. But let's see. So long-winded explanation, but I think it's important that this combination of Trump Treasury, Paul Ryan, mm-hmm. the stablecoin demonstration in the Treasury report of like, hey, look, the higher Bitcoin goes, the higher stablecoins go, the higher T-bill demand for stablecoins go. I think they're looking at it in this regard. I really do.
He said Paul Ryan there. I think he meant Paul Atkins, who is the rumored candidate for the next SEC chair. Last I saw, as I was putting all this together, it was announced that Trump wants him. It's been leaked that Trump wants him, but he is wavering on whether or not he'll accept the role. But here's, if you want to know what Paul Atkins is about, I got an article here and then a thread. So Trump taps Paul Atkins for next SEC chair, making good on his crypto promises. Atkins has been vocal in his support of the industry and was the first libertarian to serve as an SEC commissioner under President George W. Bush. I'll just point out, libertarians were all wigging out the other day about how Trump didn't give them any libertarians. Oh, RFK doesn't count. Well, I'm sure this guy doesn't count either. President-elect Donald Trump has selected the pro-crypto Paul Atkins to chair the Securities and Exchange Commission, according to 3 sources familiar with the discussions. One source specified that Trump has reached out to Atkins but is waiting on him to accept. By selecting Atkins, Trump is delivering on a promise he made to the crypto community during his campaign. Spokespeople for Atkins did not respond to immediate requests for comment. Quote, President-elect Trump has made brilliant decisions on who will serve in his second administration at lightning pace, Trump Vance transition spokeswoman Caroline Levitt, who is also the going to be the press secretary, told Unchained. Remaining decisions will continue to be announced by him when they are made. Current chair Gary Gensler, who announced 2 weeks ago that he will resign on January 20th when Trump is inaugurated, has made himself a pariah in the crypto industry for pursuing what's been seen as a policy of regulation by enforcement. Atkins, so not regulating, just enforcing, which means avoiding that enforcement is essentially just a gamble. Atkins will now need to be confirmed by the Senate unless Trump chooses to pursue a recess appointment while the Senate is out of session. Atkins served as an SEC commissioner under President George W. Bush and is widely respected in conservative legal circles and amongst the establishment Republican Party. Since leaving the commission, he's become outspokenly supportive of the crypto industry, having co-chaired the Token Alliance at the industry group Digital Chamber of Commerce since 2017. As founder and chief executive of the consultancy Potomac Global Partners, Atkins has advised digital finance companies on regulatory compliance topics since 2009. Quote, Senate Republicans really respect the tradition of Commissioner Paul Atkins, explained George Mason University professor J.W. Verrett, who previously served on the SEC Advisory Committee in a call earlier this month. He was the first time anyone had been a true libertarian and SEC commissioner, and that was a unique thing. The team vetting candidates for the chairperson position reached out to crypto industry leaders 2 weeks ago asking for their preferences, demonstrating how much Gensler's unpopularity has figured in Trump's latest nomination. Gensler was criticized for not establishing clear rules and guidelines for the crypto industry. Under his leadership, the SEC instead pursued a plethora of enforcement actions against crypto companies and protocols, including exchanges, token issuers, and NFT creators, for failing to register with the agency or disclose their work with what the SEC claimed were unregistered securities offerings. So they're like, we want to issue these innovative securities. We would like to register them. How can we do that? Oh, there's no way to do that. We don't have any, there's no groundwork. We don't have the, the rails laid for this. So take a shot. We'll let you know if it was legal or not. Oh, look at that. What you did was illegal. We're going to be prosecuting you. For his part, Gensler only clarified that he saw Bitcoin as a commodity, insisting that existing securities laws could be applied to other crypto projects, even including Ether, until the SEC approved spot Ether ETFs. Gensler had also developed a reputation for being difficult to work with. Atkins, by contrast, is known to find a way to retain strong working relationships with people despite ideological disagreements. Quote, there was never a commissioner at the history of the commission that was more respectful and thankful of the staff at the commission, said John Reed Stark, who worked with Atkins at the SEC in 2008. Seizing upon the industry's hatred for Gensler, Trump began promising clearer rules for the industry this summer. Framing crypto innovation as a key point of competition between the United States and other countries, Trump promised to make the United States a world capital for crypto, in part by replacing Gensler. I also don't think that it is a coincidence that we're hearing this story happening now. This pick is being rumored and it's being floated around and people are in the commentariat are discussing it right after Mark Andreessen went on Joe Rogan and talked about the whole debanking thing associated with crypto. I don't think it's a coincidence that these things are happening in this order. Trump also said that he would appoint an advisory council focused on crypto to help him fine-tune policy and potentially establish a national Bitcoin strategic reserve, in part by not selling Bitcoin that the government has seized in various financial crimes. Because of his support for the industry, numerous crypto entrepreneurs donated both cash and crypto to Trump's campaign. People interested in crypto who prioritize crypto policy in their voting decisions, from industry leaders to retail traders, had also tilted towards favoring Trump in the months leading up to the national election. So I've got another thread here about Paul Atkins. This is from Greg Sethalis. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. At Xethalis on Twitter. He's the GC at Multicoin Cap, board at FLAA, and lecturing fellow at Duke Law. He says, today President Trump is expected to announce his nomination of Paul S. Atkins to be the chair of the SEC pending Truth Social confirmation. This is welcome news to the crypto industry and U.S. capital markets. Who is Atkins? He's a former SEC commissioner nominated by George W. Bush, serving from 2002 to 2008. While on the commission, he had the foresight to hire as counsel to his office the two outstanding now commissioners, Hester Pierce and Mark Uyeda, who await his confirmation as chair. After he left the SEC, Atkins founded Potomac Global Partners, a powerhouse consulting firm advising at financial services firms on complex regulatory issues and strategy. Atkins' work at Potomac has touched digital assets, and he co-chaired the Token Alliance initiative with former CFTC Commissioner Jim Newsom. That initiative sought to create clear taxonomy and rules for tokens, launches, and trading. And as I've listened to the people in the crypto industry, a lot of it's kind of over my head. I don't totally get all of it, but I understand at like a 50,000-foot view level what sorts of problems they're trying to solve and how they're trying to innovate in this space. Definitely some of it's not going to work. Some of it's scammy. There's lots of hustlers and whatever, as there is in any space, especially when it's in its infancy. But from listening to a whole bunch of different people, what they've been asking is just give us a simple regulatory framework to operate within. Simply don't be openly hostile to us. We don't need you to give us every single thing that we want. Just give us some guidelines. Don't leave us grasping in the dark. Let's talk about why all this matters. Trump trusts Atkins, who was a point person on the 2016 transition. That's an interesting point there. Atkins wants to streamline regulation, make cost-benefit analysis great again, and foster innovation, all hallmarks of Trump fiscal policy. The opening of Atkins' Reg NMS dissent show the high-level priorities that speak to Trump and a positive reshaping of the SEC. I'm not going to read all this. You can go read it later if you'd like to. I've still got a bunch of stuff to get through here. Atkins supports crypto. He knows enough to grok the opportunity to implement reforms that will allow this industry to grow responsibly onshore. That is a dramatic change from the existing regime that acted to explicitly push crypto offshore. Atkins knows and trusts Commissioners Pierce and Ueda and the work they've done. And Atkins' nomination unlocks Pierce and Ueda and their teams to really get a head start as they wait for his confirmation, hopefully by early Q2 2025. Atkins was confirmed by voice vote, i.e. overwhelmingly in 2002, and should have a relatively clean path to confirmation. Acting chair, Pierce or Ueda, TBD, will be limited until a confirmed chair is in place and is installed a general counsel and division heads. For crypto, this likely means a whole lot more of Crypto Mom, as it's expected that Pierce will carry the crypto portfolio with Ueda at her side and the full support of Chair Atkins. With a mandate from the Oval Office, we can expect real engagement with regulators without an RSVP card entitled subpoena, real opportunities for sandbox like Reg X, Safe Harbor 2.0, or no action relief to allow projects to work on shore, expansion of the assets and activities of public funds investing in crypto, i.e. more ETFs and other variants, and an end to destructive enforcement policies that harm U.S. consumers and investors, and a return to a clear focus on rooting out fraud and bad actors. But the industry needs to meet Atkins, Pierce, and Ueda where they are. We need to provide them with ideas and resources on how our products work and how they interact with and should be interpreted under the federal securities laws and regulations. We're working on just that, and we'll continue to meet and work with the commission staff and elected officials, as well as our esteemed colleagues in the space. If you want to get involved, DMs are open. Let's go. So the significance to this for me here, like I said, I'm not a crypto guy per se. I think right now I have $157 worth of Bitcoin. That's just stuff that I've had sitting in there. I dumped a bunch in back in 2017, I think, and then there was a run up, and then I needed the money and I cashed it out, and it's a shame that I did, because I would probably have, like, I don't know, 20 or 25 grand from it now. But to me, I'm interested in this from a geopolitical standpoint and what this is going to signal for the realignment of economic incentives. There's so much, like, regardless of what you think about Bitcoin itself, whether or not you understand it, whether or not you're interested in investing in it yourself, whatever, leaving that aside, it's very clear that the sentiment has turned significantly, and that there's going to be a tremendous amount of economic investment into the crypto world, simply because all of the other investments are getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So for lack of better options, people are just going to start experimenting in this world, and we're starting to see institutional support for it. And the downstream effect of that is going to be dramatic, because as Paul Tudor Jones said, he's like, oh, there's all this economic kayfabe and there's nothing underneath it. So the smartest and most, maybe the most skittish money is going to be looking for that firm ground. So once this ball starts rolling, it's going to keep rolling. And this is going to be a major part of the complete economic restructuring that's going to happen across the world. As Jason Miranchuk says, why would this be happening if the bond market is totally healthy and nothing to worry about? So here is, as an idea of the way that some of these investors are looking at this, the potential for Bitcoin. Again, this is not investment advice. Go do your own research. I'm interested in this from a macro perspective. This is James Lavish talking about Bitcoin relative to other investments right now.
There are $900 trillion of global assets, investable assets. Bitcoin is currently 1.7 trillion of those, which is 0.02% of total assets. It's 1/10 the size of gold. So it has a long way to go here, but at $90,000, it's still only 0.2% of the entire investment universe. Now remember, it's 1/10 the size of gold, but gold's been around for thousands of years. Bitcoin's been around for 15. This is tremendous momentum, but a huge amount of space here for it to start taking some allocations from those other areas. Where will it take allocations from? Well, the obvious one is gold. Second obvious one is equities. The third obvious one is bonds. And then the fourth obvious one is real estate. So it's going to kind of...
So what he's saying here is the money that is allocated to Bitcoin right now, the value that's allocated to Bitcoin right now is about 1/10 what is allocated to gold. But gold is, however old gold is as an investment, and Bitcoin's 15 years old. So that Bitcoin is already at 10% of gold is significant. And now you start thinking about the pros and cons of Bitcoin as from I'm talking from an institutional level. Like at the individual people, yeah, that matters. But what really matters is the way the institutions are looking at it, because the institutional adoption is what's going to facilitate the mass popular adoption. So as you begin comparing Bitcoin to gold, it's very, very clear that lots of people who make up this 17 trillion in gold are going to ultimately reallocate that value to Bitcoin because Bitcoin is better. And then the same thing's going to happen with equities. People are going to go look for something safer. Bitcoin is better. Bonds. There's going to be a really, really big one. $300 trillion. This is the significance of the MicroStrategy thing, which I have some more on here in just a minute. But a lot of this money in bonds, which Paul Tudor Jones just said, I have no interest in getting involved in any of this. Well, that money's got to go somewhere. And it's not just money. It's energy. People expended energy, generated some sort of productive excess, and then took that product that they generated from that energy expended, and they're trying to put it somewhere where it's not going to disappear. Where can I take this codified energy and store it where it's not going to get stolen or degraded or diluted? What am I going to put money into that's going to retain its value the best over a 100-year time frame? That's how the institutional guys are looking at this. So when you start comparing Bitcoin to bonds, as Bitcoin gets increasingly more and more adopted, more and more people are going to adopt it. It's a network effect. So you can start projecting where the Bitcoin market cap is going to go.
In those other areas, where will it take allocations from? Well, the obvious one is gold. Second obvious one is equities. The third obvious one is bonds. And then the fourth obvious one is real estate. So it's going to kind of go in that order in my mind, that investors are going to start realizing that, oh, this is digital gold. Oh, I should, instead of having my money in just equities and bonds, I should have some in Bitcoin. Oh, instead of having all of my money in real estate, and instead of looking for real estate investment opportunities, forget about your home, I should buy some Bitcoin instead. Why? Because it's liquid. It's trustworthy. It has a tremendous rate of return over the course of just 4 years. Every single 4-year period, it has a rate of return. So that's another thing. And then just doing quick math on it, it's 0.2% right now. At 1% of the total global assets, Bitcoin's a $9 trillion asset and worth about 450.
So he's saying it's at 0.2% of global assets. So if it goes up to 1% of total global assets, it becomes a $9 trillion asset. Instead of 1.7, it goes to 9 trillion, which would make Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin, at 450,000. And then at 3%, the price of Bitcoin, so at 3% of total global assets, as Bitcoin begins siphoning away from these other markets, if it gets to 3% of total global assets, then we're talking $1.3 million as the price of Bitcoin. That's what he's saying.
$50,000 per coin. At 3%, it's worth $1.3 million per coin. So we have a long way to go. I don't know when we get to that $1 million level. I expect it to be in the next 7 years or so.
For perspective on the last one he mentioned, there was real estate. Here's perspective on Bitcoin versus real estate.
Bitcoin is repricing all of those to their utility value and or the marginal cost of production, everything on the planet. This house was $1.4 million 4 years ago. Now it's $2.1 million Canadian pieces of paper. In Bitcoin, it was 300 Bitcoin 4 years ago. Now it's 22 Bitcoin. In 4 years, this house.
So the house he's in 4 years ago was 1.4 million. He's in Canada, so Canadian pieces of paper. He purchased the house, presumably 4 years ago, and he exchanged 1.4 million pieces of Canadian paper for the house. Now, the house is worth 2.1 million Canadian pieces of Canadian paper. So the house has appreciated in value relative to the pieces of paper. However, it was 300 Bitcoin 4 years ago. Now it's 22 Bitcoin. So in 4 years, Bitcoin has vastly appreciated with respect to the house. In 4 years, this house will be worth 2 Bitcoin, he says.
This will be 2 Bitcoin. All Bitcoiners are facing the same choice. When do I want to buy this asset? Because a lot of the Bitcoiners want to buy the house. So they can't wait to spend their Bitcoin on a house. In 10 years, this house might be 0.1 of a Bitcoin. As Bitcoin is repricing this into the house to its utility value, I can make a choice anytime to be able to use my Bitcoin to be able to price my house. If I price it today, what I'm really paying for is a way overpriced house because people see it as a store of value. And it's a really bad store of value compared to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is...
Now, something interesting that happened yesterday as we're talking about the throwing gold bricks over the deck of the Titanic. The U.S. government moved 10,000 Bitcoin worth $963 million to Coinbase. Everyone was speculating. I haven't seen an update on this, but what this looks like is the government getting ready to sell this Bitcoin. Jason Lowry, which you might know from the What is Money podcast, I've recommended his conversation with Robert Breedlove about power projection and the implication of Bitcoin as a technology. Leave aside the idea of it as an investment, the idea of it as a technology. If you haven't listened to that series, Robert Breedlove, What is Money podcast with Jason Lowry, talking about power projection and what that means for Bitcoin as a technology, then we can't have a conversation about Bitcoin until you've done that. So he weighed in on this. He said, just so I have something on permanent record that I can point to in the future, this is a huge strategic mistake. There is no price where it makes sense for the U.S. to sell any Bitcoin it has under its control. They have no idea what they own, and it shows. Final fuck you from an incompetent outgoing administration to the American people. I remain hopeful that a decentralized finance and incorruptible monetary standard Bitcoin can help fix the clown world we live in. This does, to me, square with the idea of looting the treasury on their way out. Because I see some of the comments here in the chat about a pump and dump scheme and all this sort of thing. It's a pump and dump until the strategic reserve and whatnot actually happens. But here's the thing. It's looking like the strategic reserve is going to happen. And as the institutional money starts to anticipate that the strategic reserve is going to happen, everyone's going to want to get in ahead of that announcement. And the more people try to get in, the less supply there is on the market because there is a fixed supply of Bitcoin. And the more people try to get in, the more people are going to try to get in. Which is actually an interesting conundrum, I think, from the perspective of the Trump administration announcing the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Because if you announce, hey, we're going to buy this Bitcoin, then you have to go buy the Bitcoin. So, I think when it happens, the Bitcoin is going to be purchased ahead of time. Because if the United States, if Trump went out and said, we're announcing a strategic Bitcoin reserve, whatever, I know it has to go through Congress, yada, yada, yada. But if that formally becomes evident that it's going to happen, Bitcoin is going to absolutely skyrocket. Because it will be such a strong statement of faith by the U.S. federal government saying this is a valid asset, a valid treasury asset to invest in. That'll be the greatest normalization endorsement ever. So that the actual, there's separate conversations here. There's the nature of the asset itself, and then there's the public perception of the asset. And they're related, but they're also not exactly the same thing. What's building up, though, is the public perception that that's the place to be. And so you're going to start getting some really profound network effects here that are, you've heard Stormy talk about nonlinear systems. We're about to see what a nonlinear system looks like. Again, this isn't investment advice. I don't have anything invested in it. I tell you, if you got money that you aren't afraid to lose, I don't think you're going to lose it. But if you have money you're not afraid to lose, then probably a good place to go. But I'm not really as interested in it from the investment perspective as I am from the macro geopolitical level and the implications of it. Because with this other clip that I played here, which one was it? Oh yeah, Luke Groman talking about Bitcoin is the new oil. as I've been thinking about it and kind of game theorying it out, I think it's a false choice to choose between like the value of the dollar versus the value of Bitcoin, because I think the United States adopting a pro-Bitcoin platform and beginning to develop a Bitcoin reserve is going to have upward pressure. When you play everything out, it's going to have upward pressure on the value of the dollar, because it's going to create it's going to improve public perception of the stability of the American economy and the trajectory of the American economy. So more people are going to come into Bitcoin or come into the US dollar because of that. Especially if they start doing like Bitcoin-backed bonds or something like that, which on one hand, it seems kind of improbable, but on the other hand, I don't think you can rule a lot of this stuff out. A lot of stuff is changing. All of these different shifts are all connected. We're in a transitional period where lots of things that would previously be seen as completely improbable can change overnight. And from the sound of it, if that story that Peter McCormick is telling, that Trump is out here orange pilling his billionaire buddies and saying Bitcoin is the new oil, if that's actually true, then that says that the Trump administration is viewing it the way that these people are viewing it. So the MicroStrategy story, I've brought it up a couple of times here because this, again, like I'm not investing in it at all myself. I just find the story fascinating. And I think that plugging it in with all of these other factors, MicroStrategy is not going away anytime soon. Let's just say that. And it's going to play a significant role in the economic future of the United States. Here's a great breakdown from the guy we just heard from a minute ago, James Lavish, talking about, explaining in very simple terms what MicroStrategy is doing.
Move over Elon Musk, because nobody right now is rattling the cages of traditional Wall Street more than Michael Saylor. Now, of course, it's the same crowd of naysayers who lost billions of dollars shorting Tesla. And well, they're at it again with their friends in the financial media, taunting Bitcoin, Michael Saylor, and of course, all the suckers who are drinking the Kool-Aid. Nobody would call my next guest a sucker, but I think he's drinking the Kool-Aid too. We'll bring a Bitcoin Opportunity Fund co-managing partner, James Lavish. You know, James, explain the value proposition for those at the back of the room who haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, well, it's good to be here, Charles. Thank you for having me. Drinking the Kool-Aid is a good way to put it. But look, Michael has come up with a brilliant strategy at MicroStrategy, and people are calling it a money glitch for a reason. Why? Because Michael has found a way to issue stock and make it immediately.
I'm going to slow this down because I realize some of this more technical stuff probably isn't great for faster speeds.
Paying attention.
Yeah, well, it's good to be here, Charles. Thank you for having me. Drinking the Kool-Aid is a good way to put it. But look, Michael has come up with a brilliant strategy at MicroStrategy, and people are calling it a money glitch for a reason. Why? Because Michael has found a way to issue stock and make it immediately accretive for his shareholders. This is something that Wall Street is not used to. Normally, you issue shares, you do a secondary, and it's usually dilutive unless you can do something very quickly to make to create some value for your shareholders. Well, what he does is he's borrowing money and buying Bitcoin with it. So, just for instance, if he issues $100 million of stock and he buys $100 million of Bitcoin, the stock goes up $200 to $300 million in market value, and it's immediately accretive, not dilutive. And that's because people understand what he's doing.
So just to elaborate on that a little bit here, he issues the stock, receives money, takes that money, buys Bitcoin, the value of the stock goes up. So issuing more shares is not diluting the value of the existing shareholders. It's actually accretive. It's adding to the value of the existing shareholders because of the traits of the underlying asset and the investor's perspective on the future of that asset. So if you look at this, you say it's a Ponzi scheme. Well, it could be if the underlying asset didn't have the attributes that Bitcoin has. And if you didn't have the market of investors who recognize the attributes of Bitcoin, which makes the value of the shares, which is a subjective thing. It's going to depend upon the people who are viewing it and what do they value in it. And what's playing out here is that the more shares that he issues and receives money for and puts that money into Bitcoin, the more valuable each individual share gets in the minds of the people who are valuing them.
People who are buying his stock understand what he's doing, and that he's creating this value for them, this underlying value for them. The other thing he's doing is he's issuing convertible debt. And he can do that, Charles, at near zero yield. Or in the last one he did was $3 billion for 0% yield. Well, why can he do that? He can do it because the MSTR stock, his stock is volatile.
So issuing these bonds at 0% yield, what that means for the slow boys is people are lending him money for free. You can say what you want about the intelligence of that or whatever, but people are willing to give him vast sums of money. I think the most recent one was like $3 billion. $3 billion for free, knowing what he's going to do with it. Why are they willing to do that? They're willing to do that because of the alternatives. For one thing, where else are they going to put that $3 billion? Like, you might say with negative interest rates, you might say, oh, it's insane. Like, why would you loan money at a negative interest rate? Well, you might do that if you think that the negative interest rate is going to be better than what will happen with the money otherwise. If you have nowhere else you can put that money, if you have $100 and you want to lend $100 to someone, and your option is hold on to that $100, don't do anything with it, and it's going to be worth $95 in a year, but you can go lend it to somebody and it'll be worth $98 in a year, well, you'll make that trade because the alternatives are worse. So there's a similar phenomenon here. People are willing to give him money for free, knowing what he's going to do with it because they recognize the underlying dynamics of what's happening here.
And it's volatile because of the underlying holding, Bitcoin. But it's also volatile to the upside, which creates optionality for his buyers. And so he's able to issue these converts at almost zero yield because there's optionality for those hedge funds to buy that convert debt and trade around it, and then ultimately they'll look to convert it into the underlying stock, and they'll get value from that as well.
Right.
So the volatility. I've seen a lot of people who say, well, the problem with this is the volatility because it's one of the most volatile stocks because it's a leverage play on something that's volatile itself. But the volatility is actually the feature. If you go listen to the people who are investing in this heavily, the reason they're investing in it is because of the volatility. Because they can begin playing around the margins of that volatility with options. Calls, puts, futures, all this sort of stuff. They can play around the margins with it and benefit from that, knowing that ultimately they're going to be able to convert it to stock and to do it again.
James, we're going to put up a chart showing MicroStrategy and Bitcoin itself. And MSTR has significantly outperformed. The value proposition that you just described, is that the only thing? Is there some other sort of arbitrage situation going on?
I would think that there are hedge funds that are trying to arbitrage this, and that would be buying Bitcoin or buying Bitcoin futures and then shorting MicroStrategy, which I would say is a pretty dangerous strategy. I wouldn't be doing that myself. But the reason is what I just said, is that it's trading at a multiple because he's creating Bitcoin, underlying Bitcoin, by borrowing money against it. And as you go into the future, these shares will be worth more because of that underlying Bitcoin. Now, how long this goes on for, it's hard to say, but it can go on for a very long time. He's right now trading, if you take all the shares, dilute all of them out, and assume that every single share is converted from all those converts, he's trading at about a 2.7 multiple of shares, the share price to the underlying Bitcoin. Where that ultimately goes, I mean, he thinks he has a lot of runway here. Yeah. He can do this. He's talking about buying up to 1 million Bitcoin, and he's got 400,000 right now. So there's a way to go.
I've got less than a minute to go, but there are some critics out there. So you replied to a post, Steve Hanke, I think, really smart, very successful guy. He's been on this show where he's got this sort of cartoon. And, highly speculative, comparing it to the Mississippi Company, one of the most famous bubbles in history. What do you think folks like that are missing?
I think that the ego sometimes betrays you. I dismissed it twice in my career, Charles, and I've been on Wall Street for a long time, for 30 years. And I just outright dismissed it. I didn't do the work. And I think a lot of these people are either not doing the work or refusing to admit that they're wrong. I mean, the reality is that Bitcoin is extremely a rapidly growing network that's operated continuously since 2013.
This part's very important. Describing this, the story that you can tell about Bitcoin now, given the history that it's developing, is different than it, because the history is so short. 10 years of history and 15 years of history is a very significant thing. So 5 years ago, when Bitcoin has 10 years of history, you could say, but that's kind of a short period of time. But then 15 years of history, you've now got 50% more, and you're still telling the same story. As this process continues, it gets to the point where, like, it's very evident at this point, the biggest thing holding it back is institutional adoption. What's the biggest thing holding institutional adoption back? Regulatory uncertainty. Now we're getting strong signals that regulatory uncertainty is going to go away, which is going to facilitate institutional adoption, which is coinciding with, and it's not coincidental, it's coinciding with the sudden, like, complete degeneration of virtually every other asset class. You can't find another asset class that doesn't have major issues underlying it. So again, you can't think about this in a vacuum. You have to think about it in terms of what are the available places. If you have $100 million, or you have $5 billion, you have $100 billion, and you're trying to figure out which asset class to put it into, then you're not doing this in a vacuum. And so, as Colin Ross says here, 15 years of upward price action isn't a bubble, right? And we have to go through this time. You have to, 5 years, maybe it's a bubble. 10 years, maybe it's a bubble. 15 years, that doesn't seem like a bubble. Especially when the underlying mechanism of the asset itself, if you study it, you recognize that it's not a bubble. There's a reason, there's an inevitability to it because of everything you could do with the technology. So what he's about to describe here about the characteristics of Bitcoin as a matter of the current state of the Bitcoin network, if an investor was just looking at it on like a chart, okay, what are the characteristics of this asset? He's going to give you some very good ones here.
The work are refusing to admit that they're wrong. I mean, the reality is that Bitcoin is extremely a rapidly growing network that's operated continuously since 2013, processed over 1 billion transactions, maintaining over 11 years of uninterrupted service. The network is secured by 175 terawatt hours of power per year. That's the equivalent of 20 nuclear reactors running continuously. So if you just put it simply, the Bitcoin network is a fortress of digital power that's nation-state level resistant and growing stronger every day. And that's why we're invested in it. That's why we started the fund, and we see tremendous opportunity around the ecosystem and the opportunities in Bitcoin in the future.
Well, congratulations for looking around your own ego, and number two, making people a lot of money. It's a great combination. James, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Okay, I want to respond to something that Kate said here. So Matt, this system, as you said before, is how we can start to free ourselves from usury. I don't know if I necessarily said that exactly. It's probably a little more speculative. I could see the mechanism for it diminishing the impact of usury or the utility of usury. But I don't think Bitcoin is going to make lending go away. And this is I don't think it's necessarily going to make lending at interest go away, but it's going to change the structure of it such that you almost may need to talk about it as two different things. Because Bitcoin is as in its utilization as currency, Bitcoin is a unique asset. It's a unique asset as a reserve asset as well. It's unique. There's nothing else that compares to it. So if you're talking about the mechanisms of the network and the financial products that can be built around it and through it, you're talking about genuinely new things that have never existed before. And they will have traits or characteristics of the previous things. But, I think it moves in the direction of freeing ourselves from usury. I'm just also I don't want to make too many super grand pronouncements about it, because I think some of those things are going to be inevitably with us, as long as we're in this life. If you want some ideas about, I've mentioned this one before, but I'll shout it out again. Very, very interesting listen is this conversation here on TFTC with Andrew Hones, Your Bitcoin is Worth More Than You Think, New Collateral Method. He rapid fires multiple times throughout this episode. He rapid fires a bunch of different, very interesting ways that Bitcoin can be incorporated, that basically Bitcoin can be bolted on to almost any industry to like suck the entropy out of that particular vertical. And it's all very speculative, but again, the biggest thing holding back this speculation from actually growing legs and beginning to explore it and massive adoption has been regulatory uncertainty. And that's the big takeaway from all of this, is that being the case, it's very significant that the regulatory uncertainty is beginning to fade away. Okay, and I'll drop this link again in the master thread later on, so you guys can go watch that. I very strongly recommend it. It's very, very interesting conversation. VAI says, if Bitcoin were to become the world reserve money, it will put a hard cap on how much inflation can be done on top of it. Okay, another thread here. So this is a long post, but I think it's very worth reading. I'm going to read through it because elaborating on the MicroStrategy thing, a lot of people are very skeptical. They're very afraid of the bear case, but I think he makes a very good point that obviously there are risks to the investment, but they're not. He elaborates on them in a very interesting way. And again, this is not investment advice. I'm not advocating this as an investment. I think the mechanics of what's happening here are very interesting and have profound downstream effects on the restructuring of the economy. Because I think essentially what MicroStrategy has done is made themselves into a Bitcoin investment bank, the first Bitcoin investment bank. So this is from Ben Workman on Twitter, at Ben Workman, and Workman spelled Werkman. He says there's a lot of demand going around right now to focus on the MicroStrategy bear case, so I'll do a bit of that today. If there's a desire, I'll go deeper once I'm not on vacation. Trigger warning, wildly long, probably lots of spelling mistakes in this one, but you'll get my points. Please forgive any errors. I'll start by saying this. No, I don't make the bear case my primary focus right now in posting, because I see the first major point in time risk coming in 2028 at the earliest due to MicroStrategy currently being able to call the 2027 bonds and essentially force a conversion if they want. Of note, the 2028 bonds are also eligible for early conversion by the bondholders, but not yet callable by MicroStrategy until December of 2027. Let's start by clearing up that there is no margin call or forced liquidation with the convertible debt. That risk was associated with the bank loan they had earlier, but there is no Bitcoin price at which MicroStrategy gets forced liquidated. I've seen a lot of posts including this, but it is simply not a thing. Okay, with that in mind, let's move forward. The vast majority of the risks discussed are tied to the convertible debt, or the demand for the convertible debt. And again, a convertible debt means they borrowed money from an investor. They borrowed that money, and at a certain strike price of the stock, that debt can be converted into equity. So it's not just strictly a loan; it's a loan that can become equity if the stock price hits a predetermined point. And then there can be a coupon associated with it that the borrower company, or in this case MicroStrategy, pays that coupon to the investor for the right of borrowing that money. If it's a 0% coupon, then they're not paying anything to them. It's just free. So the vast majority of the risks discussed are tied to the convertible debt or the demand for the convertible debt. When it comes to the converts, you really have point-in-time risk with the maturity point of each of the notes. Essentially, what this means is that the risk you're evaluating is a convergence of bad timing, where you get a Bitcoin black swan event coupled with a maturity of one of the convertible bonds, keeping it below its conversion price and requiring a cash repayment. So if there happens to be an event where at the point in time that one of the convertible bonds reaches maturity, but there's been a Bitcoin black swan event, so it's below the conversion price, then the company has to issue a cash repayment. This risk is exactly why MicroStrategy deploys a ladder strategy for their convertible bond offerings. They spread the maturities of the bond so that no more than one bond offering will mature in any given year. This allows MicroStrategy to ride out fluctuations in Bitcoin's price and the cycles. If we look at the upcoming bonds for maturity, there are two to be looking at, in my opinion: the 2028 and the 2029. Remember, my personal belief is the 2027 are as good as converted at this point, so take that for what it's worth. Basically, he's saying that the bonds that have already been issued with a maturity date in 2027, it's a foregone conclusion that given the underlying mechanics, the price is going to already exceed that conversion point. So they're not going to be in this situation where they have to have a cash repayment. With the first maturity in September of 2028, they can be converted at any time after March 15, 2028, but not focusing on those clauses for now. This means that if we are to believe the 4-year cycles for Bitcoin will continue, and these cycles are caused by the halvening that happens every so often, we will be just 2.5 months earlier in the next cycle than we are in this current cycle at maturity. The largest of the notes, the most recent 2029 $3 billion notes, will mature in December of 2029, which is essentially peak of the next Bitcoin cycles. Coincidence? I doubt it. I think 2029 was intentionally left open for the first scaled up offering. So when looking at a bear case with this in mind, we are first acknowledging that we think the cycles likely won't repeat, and further, we are assuming the cycle breaks to the downside and stays there for an extended period of time. This, in my opinion, would require a major shift in the regulatory environment, an exploit, or a long-term black swan economic event. Out of the question? Of course not, but I can't predict these, so I won't try. So basically, we would have to assume that suddenly Bitcoin is going to start acting very differently than it has over its history so far with each of these cycles. There's going to have to be some sort of major black swan event, like a shift in the regulatory environment where, I don't know, they outlaw Bitcoin and that people start being prosecuted over it, or something like that, that massively depresses the price of Bitcoin relative to its history. And like what's happening right now, as I've been detailing with these last several clips, is that the opposite is the trend. The trend is that we're going in the opposite direction, that the regulatory environment is going to be opened up. All right, now that we've gone through the fine print, let's just focus on a couple scenarios. I'm not making price predictions in this scenario other than general observations because, like everyone else, I have absolutely no idea where the share price will go. I'm simply looking at what could happen. What happens if Bitcoin's price goes down in the near term? Well, for starters, it would be unlikely we see more convertible notes in the short term if this happened. So they could just stop issuing the convertible notes. If Bitcoin's price declines, it means that the fair market value of their holdings will decline as well. Since the leverage is tied to the value of the Bitcoin holdings, see posts I've done prior for this overview, that would mean they would drift toward the higher end of their target range. So that puts them in a position where they would be in a holding pattern for converts. Not the end of the world, the leverage is already there. As long as the shares are trading above book, they could continue to use the ATM, the at-the-market strategy, which I've talked about in a previous episode, to acquire and keep their leverage ratio in range by adding Bitcoin. But they will likely slow the activities here just enough to keep in line with guidance. Does this mean shares will decline during this period? Of course it does. MicroStrategy's share price is tied to the growth rate of their Bitcoin holdings per share and the fair market value of their Bitcoin treasury holdings. So again, if you think about their balance sheet, they issue debt, take that money, buy Bitcoin, add it to the asset column of their balance sheet. And so then that asset column is going to have a particular fair market value based on the price of Bitcoin at a given point. Volatility goes both directions, never forget that. So there's downside risk, but there's also a tremendous amount of upside opportunity. It's core to the model, so don't be caught off guard when it cuts to the downside. This scenario impacts both categories. Their growth would slow and the value of their holdings would decline. That certainly equals a lower share price. However, this short-term view is not an existential threat to MicroStrategy, just simply a period of lower activity. What if the share price is below the conversion price when the 2028 notes come due? In my opinion, this is the first time it gets interesting. While the share price going down temporarily will be painful for investors, it's hardly a threat to collapsing MicroStrategy. But not being able to handle a maturity, that's more of a topic for concern and consideration. Now, the initial thought everyone has is, well, they'll just sell Bitcoin. So what everyone is saying is, if they find themselves in a situation where the share price is below the conversion price when those 2028 notes come due, then that's where they're like in a situation, well, we have to make a cash repayment for this. So people say, well, they'll just sell off some of the Bitcoin on their balance sheet to pay for that, which obviously distorts their balance sheet in a more leveraged direction, which starts to hint at potential risks down the line. He says, but I doubt it. We need to be a bit more strategic than that. No problem has just one single solution after all. But just for fun, what would the price of Bitcoin need to be before just the Bitcoin couldn't cover this maturity? So if they issued this debt to buy the Bitcoin, and now they're saying, oh, well, we didn't hit the strike price so at the maturity date, so we need to sell some Bitcoin to get back the money. Well, what would the price of the Bitcoin need to be? The answer is 2,611, which is the 2028 debt divided by the total holdings. Realistically, people will track the value at which MicroStrategy goes into the red collectively on their debt versus just the one point in time, but this is a view into a catastrophe scenario. We all probably have a lot more problems if BTC is $2,611 than our current MicroStrategy shares. As it stands today, the price at which MicroStrategy would not be fully covered on their debt from just Bitcoin alone is $18,784. So right now we're like hovering right underneath $100,000. So the price at which MicroStrategy would not be fully covered on their debt from just their Bitcoin holdings would be $18,784. So also a long way from this scenario, and this is why they manage their leverage ratios to allow for market fluctuations. But let's think a little less binary and a little more strategic. How do we address this? We have to look at what our other options would be that don't include selling the Bitcoin. You know the rules, you never sell your Bitcoin. And if anybody in the entire world has been more open about the hodling strategy, there's no one other than Michael Saylor's like the most well-known hodler. I see three primary options available: bonds, traditional debt, and ATM. We've only seen one evolution of bond offerings here. So for this scenario, if converts are not in favor anymore, we would have to look for a new customer base to draw from. We could do this by looking at new bond categories. Depending on market conditions overall, we may have to approach these differently. It's possible they can still offer unsecured bonds with either a fixed or floating rate. Fixed will be more desirable if rates are low at the time, while floating would be great if rate conditions are anticipated to get better throughout the term. However, if the market conditions are really bad, they may need to pivot and provide some collateral backing. This would likely be done with Bitcoin secured bonds, and these would also have fixed or floating rates, but because of the collateral, the coupons may be lower than the unsecured. So in other words, because of the nature of the collateral and how investors would feel about this kind of collateral, they would be willing to make this kind of a loan for less of a coupon price. In other words, lower interest. The MicroStrategy would not have to pay as much to them for the price of holding that debt. The goal here is to roll the debt further out in the future. This basically buys time for conditions to change in the Bitcoin market. The proceeds would be used to cash redeem the 2028 notes, and the new bonds would likely go out another 4 to 5 years before maturity. So this doesn't come with additional Bitcoin unless upsized, but it makes sure that no Bitcoin is sold and also doesn't come with any equity attached like the convert. So it's just traditional debt that's just secured by the Bitcoin holdings. So they don't have to sell the Bitcoin. They create, there's a new product here, a Bitcoin secured bond that they sell, they get cash, and they can use that to pay off the other investors while being able to retain their Bitcoin and not putting more equity, having the potential dilutive effect of issuing that equity in this type of environment. The obvious consideration here is that these require cash flow to support them. So one consideration to work through will be the health of the operating company. Because remember, MicroStrategy is an actual functioning, profitable, cash flowing, I think it's a software as a service business. I'm not going to make any projections on that as I have no inside view to the demand they're seeing over the next 4 years. Traditional debt is simple. It basically just means take out a loan to cash redeem the notes. Bank loans come with a lot of strings, I think it's supposed to be. Debt service covenants, collateral requirements, etc. So it's not ideal, but it does the same thing as the bonds and moves the maturities out. These will also come with market interest rates that the operating company needs to cover. So if they take on traditional debt, the operating company would need to be generating enough positive revenue, positive cash flow to cover the cost of that traditional debt. For both the new bonds and the traditional debt, we're looking to move these out far enough to allow conditions to improve. Once conditions improve, we can look at redeploying convertible bonds once again to help clear this debt at some point in the future. The other option is the ATM, or at the market. It's possible in advance of immaturity, MicroStrategy starts using the at the market strategy to hold cash to minimize the upcoming maturity risk. If it all works out at a conversion, and a conversion is able to take place, they always have the option to deploy the cash they built up into more Bitcoin. Keep in mind, the ATM isn't an all or nothing approach. It could be used in conjunction with one of the other options as well to decrease the amount of debt they are rolling forward. There's an analysis to be done at the time to determine how best to preserve shareholder value. So what if this happens for many years in a row? This becomes the question of how much can the operating company cash flow at that time? The options from the last scenario remain on the table to roll the debt. If several years go by and the debt all has to be cash redeemed, then we start having to consider the potential for Bitcoin to be sold or highly dilutive ATM issuances being deployed. Nobody should be under the illusion that there is no risk in the model. Of course there is. Our job as investors is to weigh the risks and make an assessment of how real they are and whether risks many years in the future are probable enough to keep us out of an opportunity today. What about MNAV? This is more discussed from an investment perspective versus an existential risk to the organization. There are any number of scenarios that can compress the MNAV, including Saylor himself and the ATM use. Let's not pretend that's not real. Of course it is. For now, it's an accepted risk, as the belief of many, myself included in this investment, is that Bitcoin is going to be hitting a major adoption curve, and the goal should be acquire quickly before bigger buyers, i.e. nations, enter the scene. That timeline is getting shorter each day. And this is like everything that I was showing you before about the institutional adoption curve booting up here indicates we're at the early part of it. As MicroStrategy uses the ATM aggressively, the MNAV compresses. This shouldn't be a secret that MicroStrategy selling their own shares does absorb some of the buying pressure in the market. It absolutely does. This is often why we see price climb during quiet periods before earnings when they stop using it. It's also why the ATM will be used more aggressively during periods of bullishness when volume rises. Conversely, it will be used less during price declines and bearish periods for Bitcoin. MNAV will ebb and flow, likely quite wildly. I see it more as a sentiment indicator of Bitcoin than I do as some concrete law for market cap valuations for MicroStrategy. Everyone gets to assign their own values to the strategy of MicroStrategy. There'll never be consensus. I share mine based on my thesis, but that doesn't need to be yours. If you don't believe there's a justification for a premium, then this isn't the trade for you to be in. No arguments needed. This is how markets work. And what people have argued about is they say, well, MicroStrategy has the valuation of the underlying assets on their balance sheet, the Bitcoin that they hold, but the stock is trading at a premium on that. So people, like, why wouldn't you just buy Bitcoin? Why would you pay extra for exposure to Bitcoin? And we've covered this in previous episodes, but number one, some of these buyers don't have the option of buying Bitcoin directly. They're not comfortable with the idea of buying Bitcoin directly, and they value the leverage potential of MicroStrategy because they're like hedge funds that are doing options trades and stuff. So they actually like what they're willing to pay a premium for access to the MicroStrategy stock because of the volatility surrounding it that they can monetize through their options trades. And really, this is kind of silly to me. Even as someone that isn't really an investor, I've just kind of read up on some of this stuff, saying the market cap of the company is more than the net asset value of all the company's assets. Well, of course it is. That's the purpose of the company existing. You exist as a company because you've figured out a way to take some assets and generate surplus value on them. So of course it trades at a premium. Apple trades at a massive premium over its underlying net asset value. So does Microsoft. So does this is a feature of being a productive company. So the fact that you pay a premium, of course you do. That's not a mark against MicroStrategy or against the business model. A note on forward-looking valuation. Another important aspect for people to consider is that your future valuation of MicroStrategy is likely directly tied to your personal outlook on Bitcoin and the future evolution of the use cases for the asset class. Personally, I see a bright future that likely brings many monetization opportunities for MicroStrategy to utilize their Bitcoin as it becomes further ingrained in the global financial system. There's all sorts of different lending options, Bitcoin-backed bonds. They could get into the insurance world. They can invent new industries if all of this plays out according to their plan. We're talking like a before and after demarcation period in world history. Go listen to that interview, the TFTC interview, if you want some ideas of the sorts of directions that they could go. If you're trying to be early to an opportunity, this takes a degree of looking into the future and seeing opportunities that others can't see yet. I personally think that is the case with MicroStrategy. If you view Bitcoin as static and never changing, then you won't likely have a positive outlook for MicroStrategy's prospects beyond simple fair value of their Bitcoin. This also isn't a topic requiring arguments amongst people. Intellectual discussions, just not fights. It's up to everyone to determine their probabilities, yada, yada, yada. This is why I always reiterate investing is an individual sport. What if there's no longer demand for convertible debt? There's been a ton of discussion about what happens if volatility is no longer favorable for MicroStrategy and the convertible bonds are no longer sought after. So basically, the volatility no longer has an upward bias and it has a downward bias. First, let's keep in mind that the alternative issuers of convertible debt will often have volatility of 20 to 30%. MicroStrategy is often 100 to 110%. So there's a long way to go before they're no longer desired, in my opinion. But what if it happens and their customers for converts are gone? Well, what happens if demand for iPhones disappears? Apple stock probably goes down, right? No different with MicroStrategy. If they lost their ability to generate their yield, then their growth is slowing and their valuation would compress. Nothing magical here, and it doesn't need to be taboo to say this. The question really becomes, can they create another product offering that can fill the void left by the converts? I've been rambling forever now, so I'm not going down this rabbit hole for today, but people can spend some time on that thought process for themselves. So summary, every single investment contains risks. I'm not going to pretend this isn't the case. MicroStrategy is not immune to this fact of life. However, your job as an investor is to evaluate these risks and future opportunities for yourself and assign probabilities to the outcomes. From there, you can take a position with your eyes wide open. And he's just issuing disclaimers here. He says, obviously, I didn't cover every other possible risk here. This is just a couple of the ones I see discussed. You also have regulatory risks, key man risk. MicroStrategy has a killer team, so I'm not concerned. Custody risks, etc. Take the time to become familiar and spend a few minutes thinking about each. And yada, yada, yada. Okay, so that's the gist of it. Appreciate you guys indulging me on this subject. I know some of you find it interesting and some of you don't, but I find it particularly fascinating. Let's see what the comments here are. Colin Marash says, the floor of BTC is in the 50 to 60K range based on all past market cycles. Yeah, and like the more market cycles you have with this, the easier this sort of thing becomes to project. John says that MicroStrategy is this long in the market is exactly the incentive for market makers to take price down until liquidation is the only option. Wall Street knows how to do this. Don't underestimate. And that's a fair point. But I think that... I'm not going to say that I don't think that they've considered that. And I think that the upward potential, they're betting on there being a massive institutional rush into Bitcoin over the next few years. And they're working closely with the Trump administration. I know that Michael Saylor's been advising people associated with the Trump administration and coordinating some of this stuff. So I don't think a lot of that is... The timing of all of this, I think, is well conceived, and they're essentially betting that their first mover advantage is going to insulate them from a lot of these other market effects, because the inevitability of the rush into Bitcoin, because of its underlying traits, its inherent traits, is essentially going to insulate them from that sort of thing. Because everyone else is going to be forced to rush into it as well, just because everyone's rushing into it. All right. Last couple of stories here. So I mentioned the UFOs thing at the top of the show, and there are my feed has just been completely inundated in these lately. And like I said, I don't know if this is because there's actually something going on, or if I think there is actually something going on. I know that there's the possibility that my algorithm is just responding to me. I engage with a couple of these. I look at them. I open them. I look down through the comments. I play the video all the way through, and the algorithm says, oh, he wants more UFO videos. So they start sending me more UFO videos. But I think along with that, there is a big uptick in this, and it seems very clear that these UFO, UAPs, drones, something like that. UFO, unidentified flying object, doesn't necessarily have to be alien. And I don't really think that these are alien. I think that this is some sort of advanced drone technology. There's definitely something going on. So this one here says, kind of unsettling, mysterious UFOs and drones spotted in New Jersey. For 2 weeks, residents in one New Jersey county have reported seeing mysterious drones in the night sky.
Hey, Ernie and Candace, the FAA has placed a temporary restriction on drone flights over Picatinny Arsenal and over Trump National Golf Course in Bedminster. When these drones were first spotted 2 weeks ago, the Morris County Prosecutor's Office said that they posed no known threat to public safety. But people want to know, what the heck are they and what are they doing?
It's interesting, this particular news story. So I just picked this one in New Jersey. There's been reports all over Europe, South America. There's this weird orb that showed up in the UK that was like right hovering down next to the where planes take off. The airport, the tarmac. Been going for 3 hours here and my brain's turning into mush. This weird orb that's sitting down next to the tarmac, people are taking pictures of. All this sort of stuff is all over the Middle East. There's all sorts of reports of these drones, these glowing orbs. And of course, the more that people look for them, the more people are going to find them. So is this a new phenomenon that these drones are showing up? Well, it seems there's something new that's happening, but there's also, it's turning into a mimetic thing where everyone is starting to look for them, which probably also means more people are going to want to start doing like the Bigfoot thing where you create fake videos just for the sake of virality. There's all sorts of messiness and complication in all of this. But in this particular one, you're actually seeing official bodies responding to it. And this one's very close to a Trump. It's very close to major airports and very close to a Trump golf course, which is an interesting added dynamic to it.
It's normal to see red and green lights in December, unless they're coming from mysterious drones in the night sky.
It's kind of unsettling. They're not up for 15 minutes, they're up for hours. Some are very big, probably the size of a car.
Mike Walsh says he's seen hundreds of them over the past 2 weeks from his Randolph backyard and has the video to prove it.
They kind of go slow, they come towards you, then they'll change direction a little. They're all going different ways.
The drones have been spotted all over Morris County. Morristown police sent an alert to residents Sunday saying they are aware of drone activity and that if a drone crashes or lands, do not approach or handle it. The FBI's Newark field office would only say it is working with other law enforcement agencies to figure out what's going on, but at the moment doesn't have enough information to share.
A lot of people want to know what's going on. I think more people are coming around to that, oh, this is going on and maybe it's not good.
Nancy Reed didn't want to show her face on camera, but says she's seen the drones every night since November 18th.
I can see them right out my bedroom window. I can watch them. Last night was about 5:30, so it was earlier. But it's normally anywhere between like 7:30 and 10:30, they're out here. Never during the day. Nobody ever sees them during the day.
One thing she hasn't seen is the normal air traffic she's used to, and she doesn't understand why.
We're in the fly pattern going to like Morristown Airport and Newark, and we used to see a lot of planes coming back and forth. You don't see them anymore.
Now, we also reached out to Picatinny Arsenal because of reports that the drones were flying over the military base. So far, we have not heard back. Reporting live in Randolph, New Jersey, I'm Katie Corrado, Pix 11 News.
I've lived next to airports before, and if suddenly all the air traffic changed and you didn't have flights flying over, it would be very, very noticeable. So if she's saying that she's noticed that, then that would stand out to her. Another interesting story on this here in Texas. I'm going to be going for a walk tonight because I'll be up late. I got some errands I got to run and got to walk the dog and a bunch of podcasts to listen to. So I'm going to be looking for UFOs while I'm out there. This one here, multiple pilots have reported that UFOs have been flying over Texas for hours.
Center Envoy 3413, got a question. Go ahead. You know if the river's MOA is hot, you got anybody messing around over there? It is cold. Well, I was curious why you asked. It's going to sound a little weird, but we keep asking about the MOAs we keep passing because we're following these two kind of lights that are up above us that are kind of jogging back and forth left and right for the past like half hour. Really? Yeah, I don't see anything on radar, and no, river's just not active. Cool, thanks.
Yeah, 1757, we've been watching them for about an hour or two in the northwest skies.
They were really
Week as well.
Oh. Way up high?
Split positions, they actually moved. It's the first time I've seen them change relative positions.
You can see this here. I don't know if this, I don't know exactly if this video is whoever put this together is just associating another sighting or if this is one of the ones they're actually talking about. But a number of these videos that I've seen all have these three moving in formation together like this, which if you're an Ashton Forbes appreciator, that should catch your attention.
That's weird. Are they way up high? Sorry, you say they're close in to you or they're up high?
Oh, I put them about 100 miles out in space.
Gotcha. Agreed.
It's very interesting. There's a lot of different things that it could be. I've been consistent for a while now that I'm anticipating some kind of disclosure of dark tech. Vigo says there were 3 with his as well that he saw. Interesting. I assume a he. I've got a like 99.3% probability of you being a guy. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend to know what this is or what it's going to turn into, but there's definitely something that's happening here. And this could be actual official U.S. military stuff. It could be foreign military stuff. It could be private stuff. It could be demons. It could be any of these things, any combination of these things. But I think if I really had to put money on what I think is happening right now, I think that this is military technology that's being deployed because of the current geopolitical environment and the possibility of nuclear war being an actual legit thing. That's kind of my guess. My guess is that this is dark military tech that's being deployed. And now, is that something officially part of the military, or is it private military contractors? Patriots in control. I think those lines are very blurry. I don't think it's not like there's a really clean differentiation between this is an official operation of the U.S. government versus this is private military contractors who are trying to defend U.S. airspace or something. I think it could be just about anything, but it's been happening enough now. Supposedly, we were supposed to have an invasion today, an alien invasion. By all appearances, that hasn't happened. Maybe something has gone down in the last 3 hours while I've been doing this stream, but nobody's told me that the alien invasion happened. So I'm going to assume that prediction has fallen by the wayside. So we'll see if maybe it happens tomorrow on my birthday. Last story of the day. Nice little wholesome thing to leave you guys with. Also from RKO Histories. And I have no idea how to pronounce this. I need one of my Eastern European friends to help out. Romanian, I think this is. Voltoare. It's a natural washing machine. Prior to the invention of the washing machine, rural residents of Eastern Europe developed a way to wash bulky wool items like blankets, rugs, and carpets. Water would be diverted from a nearby source into a roughly made conical tub that was intentionally not made watertight. Because the channel feeding the tub is aligned tangentially with circumference, the water flowing into it runs around the edges and creates a whirlpool, agitating the items within. No detergent is needed, and as gravity does its thing, the dirty water runs out from between the slats. This invention is called, in Romania at least, a valtoare, Romanian for whirlpool. To control the speed and force of the flow, an attendant works a series of gates. These are just vertically placed pieces of wood interrupting the incoming flow. To be clear, these were not something every family would own, and they were typically not used for everyday clothing. Rather, an enterprising villager or family would build and maintain a valtoare for profit, with residents traveling from far and wide in springtime for an annual cleaning of bulky fabric items like bedspreads and rugs, especially those made of sheep's wool, a housewife from Sugag, Romania, told Romanian newspaper Adevărul. Said housewife currently uses one in the nearby village of Dobra. All these items are left here in the whirlpool for up to a half a day, and the whirlpool of the water cleans them all of dirt. No detergent or electricity is needed. The whirlpool of water that flows very quickly does everything. They got a video here. This is really, really cool. Makes me want to, when we inevitably build our homestead, I want to have one of these on there, and don't even have a need for a washer and dryer. Just toss your stuff in here, get it washed, hang it up on the line, let the sun dry it, the sun and the wind. This is cool.
The traditional Romanian washing machine, known as the vultoare, is a remarkable example of utilizing natural resources to clean clothes effectively. Water is diverted from a nearby source into a large wooden vat. Clothes are placed inside the vat, and the force of the water creates powerful whirlpools. This natural agitation washes the clothes without the need for manual scrubbing or artificial energy sources. The continuous flow of clean water and spaces between the wooden boards allow water to flow through, while dirt and soap are efficiently rinsed away. A wooden barrier installed upstream controls the quantity of water flowing. Today, they are mainly found in rural areas of Romania. They are used to wash woolen fabrics free of charge, but people still like to make a small contribution to the budget for repairs and maintenance. Unfortunately, only a few of these washing machines have survived to the present day.
Yeah, the Succession music. CG Constantine says, it's not convenient, though. I don't know. I think it could be pretty convenient. Might be convenient to not have to have a dryer and washing machine taking up space, and they're notoriously pretty hard on clothes. I think that would be this is something I'm putting on the bucket list to build for the homestead someday. All right, well, it was a marathon show. Didn't take 6 hours, but went well past 3. This might be the longest one I've ever done. I appreciate you guys who sticking around the whole time. Do me a favor and hit the like button. We're at 95. Still got 98 watching. I didn't run all you guys off with the Bitcoin and MicroStrategy talk. I'm whittling down the true King-Pilled loyalists. Do me a favor and go to @RealKingPilled on Twitter. Give me a follow. Hit retweet on the stream or reply to it. Give me a little engagement boost and hit the like button on the YouTube stream here as well. I got a copyright strike that I've got to try to navigate through. So if suddenly the YouTube channel disappears, you know why. Someone's going through and reporting stuff from the past. And the channel, if it disappears all of a sudden, you'll find me on X. And I'll keep posting stuff on Substack after it's done. So kingpill.substack.com. You can get the link for all the different tweets and stories and articles and stuff I went through today. For now, I'm going to go say hello to my family. And I will say goodbye to you for now. So I give you Hulk, and I will see you tomorrow for another episode of the ASTROLABE. Talk to you later, guys.
They're my hero. And they tried to kill the next president of the United States. Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania